Beneath the shifting sands of Mesopotamia, an untouched Sumerian tomb emerges from the depths of time, its entrance sealed for over 4,000 years. The walls are covered in symbols no scholar can fully decipher, and the air is thick with an ancient stillness, as if the dead still guard what lies within. Legends speak of kings who conversed with gods of treasures, forged for divine hands, and of knowledge so dangerous it was locked away for eternity. Now, for the first time, the stone doors are opening, and the truth may rewrite everything we know about the dawn of civilization. Scattered across the ruins of the Roman Empire are strange metal objects that defy all explanation. Perfect 12-sided polyhedrons, each face pierced by a precisely cut circular hole, no two holes the same size. Tiny bronze spheres crown every vertex as if marking some hidden code. They fit in the palm of a hand, measuring only 4 to 11 centimeters, yet their flawless geometry and meticulous craftsmanship whisper of advanced skill and a purpose long since lost to time. For centuries, these artifacts have challenged archaeologists, mathematicians, and historians alike, standing as one of ancient Rome's most beguiling and unsolved mysteries. What do you think these Roman dodecahedrons were once used for? Share your theory or thoughts in the comments below. Who knows, your idea might just open up a new path to solving this mystery. Roman dodecahedrons have been discovered scattered across various sites that once belonged to the Roman Empire in Western Europe, including Britain, France, Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Hungary. They are dated to approximately the 2nd–4th centuries CE. Remarkably, although the Romans were renowned for meticulously recording every aspect of life, from architectural works and military campaigns to everyday tools, there is not a single text drawing or note that mentions these artifacts. This complete absence from ancient records has left a significant gap in archaeological understanding, while also increasing the allure of this mystery for scholars and history enthusiasts alike. Each Roman dodecahedron is a regular 12-sided solid with an almost perfectly geometric form, in which each face is a flat pentagon pierced by a circular hole at its center. The diameters of these holes are not uniform, ranging from just a few millimeters to over a centimeter, indicating they were deliberately calculated and crafted, rather than made at random. The hole edges are sharply cut, and the surfaces are smoothly finished, reflecting the Romans' advanced metallurgy and refined metalworking skills. At each vertex, where 3 faces meet, a small spherical knob made of bronze or a copper alloy is attached, serving both as an aesthetic detail and a mark of uniformity in design. Notably, despite being unearthed in many different parts of Europe, the proportions, dimensions, and structure of the specimens are remarkably consistent. This uniformity suggests they were likely manufactured according to a shared standard, hinting that they were not whimsical creations, but rather served a specific, systematic purpose. Among the many theories about the purpose of Roman dodecahedrons, there is a group of ideas focusing on their practicality and possible applications in everyday life or in the rituals of ancient Rome. The first and most discussed theory is that they were measuring instruments or agricultural tools. Based on their precise geometry and varying hole sizes, some suggest they could have been used to measure distances or angles, particularly useful in construction and military activities. By looking through 2 holes of specific diameters, a user could measure parallax and thus estimate the distance to a target. Others lean toward an agricultural theory. Sunlight passing through a specific pair of holes at a certain time of the year could signal the planting season. This theory fits the geometric accuracy and uniform sizing, but no written instructions, illustrations, or archaeological evidence confirm it. The second theory comes from textile researchers, a sizing tool for knitting gloves. Supporters believe craftsmen could thread yarn through the holes to create glove fingers of precise sizes. The variety of hole diameters supports this explanation. However, no ancient gloves have been found to prove such a production method, and it is puzzling why a textile tool would be crafted with such intricacy. Another direction is the theory of an astronomical device or seasonal calendar. Some amateur astronomers suggest the dodecahedron could have been used to determine the sun's altitude on certain days, thereby identifying planting dates or religious festival times. The user would look through a specific pair of holes to locate the sun's position in the sky. This explanation fits both agricultural and ritual needs, but it requires specialized knowledge, making it unlikely for widespread public use. In addition, there is the theory of a ritual object or religious symbol. Some artifacts were found near temples or statues, leading many to believe they had symbolic meaning, possibly linked to astrology or Roman mythology. This explains their uniformity and fine craftsmanship, but lacks direct evidence. No carvings or illustrations depict them in ceremonial use. Lastly, there is the theory of a toy or gaming piece, similar to modern multi-sided dice. This is a simple and easy to visualize idea, but the structure and size of the dodecahedron make it difficult to roll, and there are no wear marks suggesting use in games. The common thread among all these theories is that each provides some plausible reasoning, yet none has enough archaeological evidence to be considered definitive. This ambiguity has kept Roman dodecahedrons among the most hotly debated archaeological mysteries for centuries. One of the main reasons Roman dodecahedrons remain on the list of the world's most famous archaeological mysteries is the complete silence of ancient records. To date, more than 100 specimens have been unearthed across Europe, yet none bear inscriptions, decorative patterns, or usage instructions. They are entirely absent from Roman literature, technical documents, and military chronicles, a highly unusual omission for a civilization renowned for meticulous record-keeping. This gap has led to two major theories. Either they were specialized tools used exclusively by a small group such as craftsmen, soldiers, or priests, or they were esoteric ceremonial objects deliberately kept secret from the public. The absence of direct evidence has made every attempt at solving the mystery both difficult and highly contentious. The inability to determine the purpose of Roman dodecahedrons reveals an intriguing truth. Even a powerful civilization with meticulous record-keeping like Rome has left behind mysteries without answers. These small artifacts serve as a powerful reminder that historical science has its limits. There are still missing pieces in the puzzle of the past. If one day their secret is deciphered, it could open an entirely new path of understanding about the technology, daily life, and mindset of the ancient Romans. Roman dodecahedrons are both products of fine engineering and symbols of enduring mystery in archaeology. Every theory offers plausible fragments, but none provide the full picture. Until a specimen is found with undeniable contextual evidence or an ancient text revealing its true purpose, they will remain one of the world's most famous archaeological enigmas, where science and imagination walk hand in hand. High on the mist-kissed Xiangkuang Plateau of Laos lies a scene that feels torn from the pages of an ancient epic. Thousands of colossal stone jars, some towering like sentinels, others half-buried and weather-worn, their hollow mouths gaping toward the sky. They sprawl across the land in silent formation, as if guarding secrets older than memory itself. No inscription marks their origin. No legend tells their true purpose. Who carved them? How were they hauled here? And why, after centuries, do they still stand as mute witnesses to a mystery no one has solved? What do you think these giant stone jars were really made for? Share your theory or speculation in the comments below. Your idea might just open up a new perspective on this mystery. Modern surveys reveal that the Plain of Jars contains over 2,000 stone jars distributed across more than 90 different sites on the Shamokin Plateau. Their scale and dimensions vary greatly. Some stand less than 1 meter tall, modest in size compared to the rest, while others are true giants, rising over 3 meters and weighing from several hundred kilograms to more than 10 tons. They were crafted from a variety of stones, including sandstone, granite, limestone, and especially conglomerate and extremely hard rock that demands highly skilled chiseling, smoothing, and shaping techniques. Extracting such massive stone blocks would have been challenging enough, but the difficulty was compounded by the fact that some jars were found tens of kilometers away from their original quarries. This raises a pressing question. How did ancient people transport multi-ton stones across rugged mountainous terrain using only the tools and means available at the time, with no modern machinery? This mystery not only highlights their exceptional craftsmanship, but also reflects the extraordinary organizational ability and resource mobilization of an ancient community. The greatest mystery of the Plain of Jars lies in the fact that the true purpose of these stone jars has never had a convincing answer despite decades of research. Archaeologists and historians have proposed a wide range of different hypotheses, each offering its own perspective, yet all leaving gaps that cannot be fully filled. The most widely accepted theory suggests they were coffins or funerary urns used in a two-stage burial ritual. Supporting evidence comes from excavations that uncovered human bones, teeth pottery shards, glass beads, and bronze bracelets near certain jars. According to this theory, the deceased were placed inside the jars until the body fully decomposed, after which the bones were collected and buried elsewhere. However, this theory faces a major problem. Why go to the immense effort of crafting thousands of multi-ton stone jars for a single use? And why are so many jars completely empty with no trace of any burial activity? Another line of thought considers them as storage containers for food or alcohol, serving merchants traveling along the ancient trade routes connecting India, China, and mainland Southeast Asia. This idea makes sense when considering the strategic location of the Plain of Jars, a wide-open plateau that could serve as a rest stop and supply station. Some researchers even suggest the jars once held rice wine or fermented products for both ceremonial and commercial purposes. The problem, however, is that modern chemical analyses have found no sufficient organic residue to confirm this theory. Some scholars lean toward the idea of collecting and storing rainwater. Given Shamokin's distinct rainy season, having a water reserve would have been important for both locals and travelers. Yet many jars show no signs of waterproofing or reinforcement, which weakens this argument. Other archaeologists focus on symbolic meaning, viewing the jars as markers of power or religious ritual objects. Some jars have stone lids, simple carvings, or are placed in prominent positions on elevated mounds. This suggests they might have served as tomb markers, spiritual monuments, or focal points for communal ceremonies. But if their role was purely symbolic, why do their numbers reach into the thousands instead of just a few dozen representative pieces? Additionally, Lao folklore tells of giant wine jars belonging to the legendary King Kun Chung used to celebrate victory over enemies. While this story has the flavor of myth, it opens the possibility that the jars were once linked to major communal events. The striking fact is that no single theory can fully explain the phenomenon. The diversity of sizes, the vast quantity, the wide distribution, and the existence of so many empty jars. The overlap of these competing ideas, combined with missing evidence, has made the Plain of Jars one of Asia's most puzzling archaeological enigmas, a place where each new discovery seems only to deepen the questions rather than provide the final answer. Since excavations began in the 1930s, archaeologists have gathered significant evidence indicating human presence and ceremonial activity linked to the Plain of Jars. Beneath the soil surrounding some jars, they discovered human bones, dating from around 500 BCE to 500 CE, along with artifacts such as pottery glass beads, bronze bracelets, and metal fragments. These finds suggest the area was once used for funerary purposes or was connected to trade, showing that it was not an isolated site but part of a wider cultural network. Some jars were found with stone lids sealed on top, possibly to protect their contents from wild animals or the effects of weather. However, while these discoveries support the burial ritual hypothesis, they still fail to explain why so many jars remain completely empty, with no signs of use, leaving the mystery of their true purpose entirely unsolved. Situated over 1,000 meters above sea level, the Plain of Jars enjoys a cool, year-round climate and sweeping views across the Xianghuang Plateau. Many jar clusters are positioned on elevated mounds near natural water sources, suggesting their locations were deliberately chosen, possibly serving strategic defensive or transit purposes along ancient trade routes. The landscape here is both wild and mysterious. Colossal stone vessels stand tall amid grasslands and hillsides, emerging through the morning mist like silent sentinels, quietly guarding a land that has held its secrets for thousands of years. During the Vietnam-Laos War, the area was heavily bombed, becoming one of the world's most contaminated regions with unexploded ordnance. Many jar sites remain unsafe to approach. In 2019, UNESCO designated the Plain of Jars a World Heritage Site, opening opportunities for preservation research and tourism. International organizations are working with the Lao government to clear bombs and restore safe visitor routes. After nearly a century of study, the question, "What were these jars for?" still has no definitive answer. Each theory has its logic, but is hindered by missing evidence. This uncertainty makes the Plain of Jars both a scientific challenge and an endless source of inspiration for those passionate about uncovering the past. Deep within the endless golden waves of the Rub al-Khali, a desert so vast it swallows whole horizons, whispers tell of a city unlike any other. Towering pillars rose from its heart streets, gleamed with gold and precious stone, and caravans from across the ancient world poured through its gates. To the Arabs, it was Iram Dat al-Imad Iram, of the lofty pillars. To the west, it became the fabled Atlantis of the sands, a place that flourished in unimaginable wealth, only to vanish as if the desert itself had claimed it overnight. For centuries, explorers, scholars, and dreamers have chased its shadow, caught between the lines of Holy Scripture, the dust of forgotten trade routes, and the timeless mystery of how a kingdom could simply be erased from the earth. What do you think truly happened to the legendary Atlantis of the sands? Was it buried by a colossal sandstorm swallowed by the earth, or is it nothing more than a myth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm curious to hear your theory. According to the Quran, Surah Al-Fajr Iram is described as the city of the Ad tribe, a powerful yet arrogant people who defiantly opposed God. The punishment delivered was total destruction. The city was wiped from the face of the earth as a warning about the consequences of moral corruption. In 1001 Nights and Bedouin Legends, Iram appears as a golden capital with streets paved in precious stones and towering structures rising proudly from the desert. A recurring detail in every version is the image of giant pillars, symbols of power and prosperity, and a key marker for identifying Iram if it truly existed. This blend of religious narrative myth and distinctive architectural imagery has made the story of Iram an inseparable part of Arab culture. According to many studies, Iram Ubar once held a strategic position on the incense route, the vital trade artery linking Yemen and Oman with Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean. Its most valuable commodity was frankincense, an aromatic resin used in religious rituals, medicine, and perfume making, valued as highly as gold in antiquity. By controlling both the supply and the transportation routes, Iram quickly became a wealthy and powerful trade center, attracting caravans from all directions. However, this position also made the city vulnerable. A single disruption in the trade network or an unexpected disaster could collapse Iram's entire economy and vitality, setting the stage for its later mysterious disappearance. In the entire story of the Atlantis of the Sands, the element that elevates it to a global legend is how it disappeared. Unlike many other ancient cities that declined gradually over time due to economic downturns or invasion, Iram, if it truly existed, seems to have been wiped out almost instantly, leaving a mysterious void in history. All that remains are oral traditions, religious texts, and faint traces beneath the sand. From these fragments, countless theories have emerged, each offering a different perspective on the cause of the catastrophe. The most frequently mentioned theory is that of a colossal sandstorm. Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, is infamous for its shifting sands, enormous dunes capable of swallowing entire caravans, forts, or oases when strong winds blow for days on end. Some researchers, drawing on the Quran and Bedouin legends, argue that such a storm swept over Iram, turning it into a city beneath the sand in just a matter of days. In the harsh conditions of Rub al-Khali, the complete disappearance of a settlement is far from impossible, especially if it stood in an area of high dunes with no stable water source. Another more geological theory is land subsidence. A 1992 discovery at Shahr-i revealed an ancient fortress situated right next to a massive sinkhole, roughly 100 meters across. Geological analysis suggests the area may have been underlain by hollow limestone, which, after being eroded by groundwater over time, caused the subterranean vault to collapse, taking down all structures above it. If Iram had been built on such terrain, a sudden cave-in could have made the city vanish almost entirely, leaving very few artifacts on the surface. This might also explain why archaeologists have found so few intact remains. In addition, some scholars offer a less dramatic but historically plausible view: the decline of the incense empire. Between the 1st and 3rd centuries CE, maritime trade routes became increasingly common, allowing frankincense to be transported faster and more safely than via desert caravans. As trade routes shifted, Iram lost its main source of income, and its population abandoned the city, leaving behind an empty settlement. Over time, wind and sand completed the job, burying all traces and turning it into legend. Finally, there remains an explanation steeped in religious belief: divine punishment. In this view, no sandstorm or subsidence was necessary. The will of the Almighty alone was enough to erase Iram as an eternal warning to the arrogant and disobedient. This perspective is closely tied to the faith of many Muslim communities, who see the story of Iram not just as history, but as a timeless moral lesson. It is precisely this variety and contradiction among the theories that has made the question, what really happened to the Atlantis of the Sands, one of the most captivating mysteries in Middle Eastern archaeology and culture, attracting not only scientists but also explorers and enthusiasts from around the world. The search for the Atlantis of the Sands has spanned centuries, from the vague records of medieval explorers to modern archaeological projects using space technology. In the 1930s, 1940s, British explorers Bertram Thomas and Wilfred Thesiger, while crossing the Rub al-Khali, heard numerous stories from the Bedouin about a city called Ubar, described as a once thriving trade center, now lost to time. The turning point came in 1992, when a joint project by NASA, Harvard University, and National Geographic used satellite imagery to trace ancient caravan routes leading to Shisha in Oman. There, they discovered the remains of an ancient fortress and a massive sinkhole believed to be clues to the location of Ubar, Iram. However, archaeologists remain deeply divided. Was this truly the legendary capital, or merely a large caravan stop along the frankincense trade route? This debate has yet to be resolved, leaving the Atlantis of the Sands shrouded in mystery and allure. The title Atlantis of the Sands is not only about its mysterious disappearance, but also about how the story ignites human imagination, from scientists to writers to adventurers. Like Plato's Atlantis, Ubar, Iram is both a lesson on the fragility of civilization and a spark for endless quests. Today, Iram still appears in films, novels, and video games, from Lawrence of Arabia to Uncharted 3. Whether real or mythical, it remains a symbol of wealth, power, and the price of decline. Scientists continue their search with ground-penetrating radar and satellite image analysis, hoping one day to pinpoint the true location and fate of the Atlantis of the Sands. Until then, it stands as a tale that is both a warning and an irresistible mystery, drifting through the endless sand seas of the Arabian Peninsula. In 1900, a group of Greek sponge divers, on their way home after the diving season, encountered a storm and had to anchor near the island of Antikythera, located between Kythera and Crete. While exploring the seabed at a depth of over 40 meters, they came across decayed wooden fragments, green patinated bronze and bronze statues, signs of an ancient shipwreck. With permission from the Greek authorities, the divers conducted one of the earliest underwater excavations in archaeological history. They brought up numerous precious artifacts, including bronze statues, marble statues, pottery jewelry, and a strange lump of encrusted metal. No one suspected that this lump would turn out to be the key to one of the greatest technological mysteries of the ancient world. Who do you think actually built the Antikythera mechanism? An ancient Greek genius, a secret group of craftsmen, or the legacy of a lost technology? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Based on artifact analysis, the Antikythera ship dates to around 7060 BCE and was a large Roman-era merchant vessel designed for long-distance transport across the Mediterranean. Its hold was filled with luxury goods, bronze statues, marble sculptures, glassware, and ceramics originating from Greece and Asia Minor, intended for Rome to serve the upper class. However, the journey ended tragically when the ship sank near the island of Antikythera. The exact cause remains a mystery. It may have been a sudden violent storm, a technical failure that left the vessel uncontrollable, or even the result of a maritime attack. The bronze statues, marble sculptures, glassware, and ceramics in Greco-Roman style indicate that this was an exceptionally valuable cargo. They not only reflect the trade of the time, but also help reconstruct the level of sculpture artistry and the cultural exchange network in the Mediterranean, more than 2,000 years ago. But hidden among these artifacts was something far beyond aesthetic value: the antikythera mechanism. At first, the artifact recovered from the antikythera shipwreck was nothing more than a corroded bronze mass encased in hard limestone, appearing no different from an inert piece of metal. It was not until 1902 that archaeologist Spiridon Stais, upon close examination, discovered bronze gears inside a shocking detail, as the presence of such an intricate mechanical structure in an artifact over 2,000 years old was entirely unexpected. Later studies revealed that it was a complex mechanical device consisting of at least 30 interlocking gears, crafted with astonishing precision. Its functions went far beyond initial assumptions, predicting the positions of the sun and moon, calculating solar and lunar eclipses, and even simulating the orbits of planets based on ancient Greek astronomical theory. Remarkably similar technology would not reappear in human history until more than a millennium later, during the European Middle Ages. What truly astonishes scientists about the antikythera mechanism lies not only in its sophisticated astronomical concept, but also in its mechanical craftsmanship, far ahead of its time. Each bronze gear has precisely cut teeth, meshing flawlessly with dimensions of only a few millimeters, something that required advanced metallurgy, exact measurement skills, and master-level craftsmanship. When researchers reconstructed a working model, the entire system ran smoothly, proving that its maker possessed deep knowledge of both mechanical principles and complex astronomy. Placed in the context of over 2,000 years ago, it stands as powerful evidence that ancient Greek civilization was fully capable of creating intricate mechanical calculating devices. Yet what remains puzzling is how such knowledge vanished for centuries, leaving a vast gap in the history of human technology. For over a century of research, the biggest question surrounding the antikythera mechanism has been who built it and where did this knowledge originate. A popular hypothesis suggests it is connected to Archimedes, the brilliant mathematician and engineer of the 3rd century BCE. Although he died centuries before the shipwreck, his mechanical designs may have been preserved and advanced by students or successors. Another line of thought focuses on the island of Rhodes. Once a renowned center of astronomy associated with Hipparchus, the man who laid the foundations for many astronomical models reflected in the mechanism. There is also the theory that it was a commissioned work for Roman elites, crafted in Greece or Asia Minor as both a research tool and a symbol of intellectual prestige. Boldest of all is the idea that it represents evidence of a lost technology vanished due to war, natural disasters, or the collapse of knowledge centers. Whatever the case, all theories point to one truth: the antikythera mechanism is not just an artifact, but a vital piece of an incomplete technological story in human history. For over a century, the antikythera mechanism has been the subject of interdisciplinary research, combining archaeology physics and modern imaging technology. Through 3D X-ray scans, CT imaging, and metallurgical analysis, scientists have reconstructed nearly the entire gear system, which had been heavily corroded after more than 2,000 years on the seabed. The results show that the device contains at least 37 precisely interlocking bronze gears operating on 2 display faces. The front simulates the solar and lunar calendars and even the orbits of planets. The back features spirals representing the Metonic cycle. 19 years the Saros cycle, 18 years, and the Exeligmos cycle, 54 years, with astonishing accuracy. Notably, inscriptions on the surface serve as a miniature user manual explaining how to read and operate the device. These discoveries not only confirm the maker's mechanical and astronomical mastery far ahead of their time, but also open the possibility that the antikythera mechanism was once part of a broader body of knowledge that has since been lost. Even with modern analysis revealing much, many questions remain. Who built it, and for what exact purpose? How many similar mechanisms once existed? No other identical artifact has been found. Why did the technology vanish for centuries? Was it lost to war, disaster, or the destruction of key knowledge centers? The antikythera mechanism has changed how we view the technical and scientific abilities of the ancient world. It proves that ancient Greek astronomical and mechanical knowledge was not just theoretical, but applied to practical devices. Physicist Derek J. de Solla Price once said, "The antikythera mechanism is evidence that Greek science was close to reaching the age of modern mechanical technology, and its loss is one of the greatest tragedies in the history of science." The Antikythera shipwreck not only brought to light a treasure of art and commerce, but also opened a gateway to a lost world of knowledge. The Antikythera mechanism stands as proof of ancient creativity and technological brilliance. Each new study reveals deeper layers of complexity, but leaves behind many unanswered questions. One lingering question remains: could other Antikytheras still lie on the seabed of the Mediterranean, waiting to be discovered to complete the picture of ancient technological capability? In 1936, deep beneath the sands of Saqqara, British archaeologist Walter Bryan Emery pried open the tomb of Sabu, a royal figure from Egypt's first dynasty over 5,000 years ago. Inside, alongside the predictable treasures of pottery-carved stone and copper tools, lay something that defied every expectation: a disk of brittle shale schist shaped with a precision and design no one could explain. It didn't resemble any vessel ornament or ritual object known from the ancient world. Instead, its sleek, aerodynamic form evoked the unmistakable lines of modern engineering, a shape eerily akin to a turbine blade or propeller, as if a fragment of future technology had somehow found its way into a pharaoh's grave. What do you think this mysterious disk was really used for? An ancient ritual object, a lost piece of technology, or something entirely different? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The schist disk was crafted from shale schist, a metamorphic rock known for its contradictory nature, relatively soft, yet so brittle that even slight pressure can cause it to fracture. Working such a material requires extraordinary precision, as one wrong strike or miscalculation could shatter the entire piece. What makes this even more perplexing is the time period over 5,000 years ago. Ancient Egyptian artisans were limited to copper chisels, stone pounders, and sand abrasion. Yet they managed to create a perfectly symmetrical disc with 3 thin curved blades and a central hub, all without visible tool marks, suggesting crude workmanship. This level of refinement has fueled debates that the craftsman either possessed a now lost manufacturing technique or inherited knowledge from an even earlier, possibly forgotten civilization. The schist disk has a diameter of about 61 centimeters, featuring a precise central hole that strongly resembles an axle mount, hinting at the possibility of rotational use. Radiating from this center are 3 thin curved blades, each shaped with an elegant sweep and beveled edges that appear designed to guide or channel movement, whether of air, water, or another medium. These blades are far too uniform and intentional to be dismissed as mere decoration. In fact, their geometry mirrors certain aerodynamic or hydrodynamic principles seen in modern engineering, such as turbines and pumps. Yet this artifact dates back over 5,000 years to a time when no similar object has ever been documented in Egypt or anywhere else. The absence of cultural or functional parallels makes it especially difficult for traditional archaeology to classify and leaves open the unsettling possibility that its design served a purpose entirely unknown to us today. The question of the schist disk's function is perhaps its most captivating and contentious mystery, one that has kept researchers debating for nearly a century without arriving at a definitive answer. The artifact's unique form, precise geometry, and puzzling choice of material have spawned multiple theories, each intriguing, yet none fully persuasive. Some scholars within traditional archaeology lean toward the ritual object theory, suggesting the disk was never meant for practical use, but was placed in Sabu's tomb as a ceremonial item, perhaps symbolizing authority, divine protection, or participation in a sacred rite. While this fits the broader context of grave goods, it fails to explain why the object's design so strongly evokes aerodynamic principles which seem unnecessary for purely symbolic artifacts. The processing tool theory posits that the disk might have been part of a grain milling or food processing apparatus mounted on a vertical shaft through its central hole. Yet the very nature of its material, shale schist, undermines this idea. Brittle and fragile, it could not have withstood the repeated mechanical stress and vibration associated with grinding or crushing without breaking, quickly making this interpretation technically improbable. In contrast, the lost technology theory pushes the boundaries of conventional thinking. Proponents argue that the disk's three curved blades and central hub bear a striking resemblance to modern turbine rotors, pump impellers, or other engineered components designed to move fluids or gases. If this interpretation holds any truth, it implies that the ancient Egyptians or a predecessor culture possessed mechanical knowledge far exceeding what is currently credited to them. Such a possibility challenges established timelines of technological development and raises questions about the transmission or loss of advanced skills over millennia. Lastly, there is the symbol of power or knowledge theory, which sees the disk not as a functional device, but as a crafted representation of a technological concept or philosophical idea. It may have served as a visual metaphor for energy motion or mastery over natural forces, a kind of coded emblem meant only for those initiated into a higher order of knowledge. Each theory offers a compelling angle, but the absence of parallel artifacts, textual descriptions, or contextual evidence keeps the true purpose of the schist disk shrouded in uncertainty, ensuring its place among history's most enduring enigmas. The problem is that no other similar artifact has ever been found. Only one schist disk exists, and it was found in the tomb of a high-ranking individual. There are no texts, carvings, or contemporary records describing its purpose. Moreover, if it were a mechanical tool, why does it appear alone in a tomb rather than in workshops or technical sites? If ceremonial, why does its design so closely resemble modern technology? This question remains unresolved in academic circles. Today, the schist disk is displayed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, becoming one of the most mysterious artifacts to attract visitors. It stands as a symbol of the ongoing debate between two schools of thought, traditionalists explaining everything within the known knowledge and technology of ancient Egypt, alternative theorists, considering the possibility that there existed a body of knowledge or technology lost for millennia. Whichever side one takes, the schist disk remains a testament to human creativity, craftsmanship, and unresolved ancient mysteries. The schist disk is not merely an ancient object. It is an intellectual challenge to archaeologists, engineers, and anyone fascinated by historical enigmas. Its true purpose may forever remain beyond our grasp, or it might be revealed when new discoveries come to light. Until then, it will remain a puzzle in stone, prompting us to ask, do we truly understand the capabilities and technology of ancient civilizations. Beneath the burning sun of southern Iraq, where the desert wind sweeps over silent ruins, lies the ghost of a city that once ruled an empire. Over 4,000 years ago, was the beating heart of ancient Mesopotamia, an awe-inspiring metropolis of towering temples, bustling markets, and rulers who claimed divine favor. From here, power radiated across the known world, and legends were born, legends that would echo in the pages of the Bible itself. But just as swiftly as it rose, this mighty city crumbled, leaving behind a riddle that has baffled historians for centuries. How could a civilization so advanced vanish into the sands in the blink of an eye? What do you think truly caused a city that once ruled an empire to collapse so quickly? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Around 2100, 2000 BC, under King Ur-Nammu and his successors, entered its golden age. It was the capital of the third dynasty of Ur-Erthru, a mighty empire that ruled much of Mesopotamia and extended influence to surrounding regions. From trade routes stretched in all directions eastward to the Iranian plateau and the Indus Valley, westward to the Levant and the Mediterranean coast, and southward to the Persian Gulf. Ur's wealth stemmed from its strategic location near the mouth of the Euphrates River, which at the time connected to the Persian Gulf, enabling both maritime and overland trade. Was not only an economic hub, but also a center of political and religious authority. Here, the ziggurat of the moon god Nana was built as a symbol of the union between royal power and divine worship. These monumental structures were not merely religious. They also proclaimed the king's authority as both political leader and the one under divine protection. What made a superpower of its time was its tightly organized administrative system. Tens of thousands of cuneiform inscribed clay tablets recorded activities ranging from tax collection, food distribution, and international trade to laws and religious rituals. The court implemented a highly centralized bureaucracy where governors and officials were directly supervised by the king. This allowed the vast resources from agriculture, crafts, and trade to be efficiently managed, creating a strong economy that sustained tens of thousands of residents in the city and surrounding areas. Ur's wealth was also reflected in its royal cemeteries, where kings and nobles were buried with vast amounts of grave goods: gold, silver, lapis, lazuli, precious stones, finely crafted weapons, and even musical instruments. Its metallurgy, ceramics, and textile production had reached a level far more advanced than many other civilizations of the era. Around 2000 BC, one of the most powerful cities of ancient Mesopotamia, suddenly entered a period of crisis and collapsed with astonishing speed. Just a few decades earlier, it had been a leading center of power and commerce, yet everything changed abruptly. Geological studies indicate that southern Mesopotamia at the time experienced severe climate change. Rainfall dropped sharply, the Euphrates River shifted course, and the irrigation system that had sustained the region began to falter. Water became scarce, the soil turned saline, and agriculture, the backbone of the economy, went into steep decline. However, nature was not the only culprit. Also suffered fierce attacks from the Elamites and Amorite tribes, which destroyed its walls, crippled its infrastructure, and pushed the royal court into losing control of its territories. Internally, the city was caught in a spiral of instability. Its governance system relied too heavily on centralized authority, so when the royal power weakened, the entire apparatus quickly unraveled. Adding to this, disrupted trade routes drained Ur's commercial revenues. What puzzles archaeologists most is the pace of the collapse within just a few generations. Went from a superpower to abandoned ruins. clay tablets from the final period, record-sharp drops in crop yields, shrinking trade activity, and an increase in slave-related transactions, signs of a society in deep crisis, the precise cause of which remains a mystery. After its collapse, Ur did not completely vanish, but continued to exist as a local religious and trade center for many centuries. Rituals dedicated to the moon, god Nana, were still maintained, and the remaining inhabitants tried to hold on through small-scale commerce. However, as the Euphrates River gradually changed course and receded, Ur lost its vital advantage in river trade, the very lifeline of its former prosperity. This led to a steadily weakening economy, a sharp population decline, and the gradual abandonment of its structures. Over time, desert winds covered the ruins with a thin yet persistent layer of sand, burying Ur until archaeologists in the 20th century brought it back from oblivion. Ur's mention in the Bible as the birthplace of Abraham gives the city a special layer of religious and mythical significance. In religious belief, the image of Ur is tied to the story of a figure regarded as the patriarch of three major faiths, making it the focus of numerous scholarly and archaeological debates. However, to this day, no physical evidence has definitively confirmed that Abraham actually lived here, or that the biblical events took place in this very Ur. Some scholars argue that the Ur of the Chaldees in the Bible may refer to another city of the same name in northern Mesopotamia, while others believe it is indeed Ur in southern Iraq. This uncertainty leaves Ur both a historical heritage site and an unsolved mystery. Ur stands as proof of the fragility of power, no matter how great. The city shows that even the most advanced civilizations can collapse rapidly when they lose key stabilizing factors, a favorable environment, thriving trade networks, and effective political control. The lessons from Ur remain strikingly relevant today in the context of climate change and resource crises. Today, the ruins of Ur, especially the towering ziggurat of Nana, still rise from the desert, a lasting reminder of the glory and mystery of a city that once dominated an entire civilization. In the heart of Turkey, Cappadocia is celebrated for its surreal beauty valleys, carved into whimsical fairy chimneys, rolling stone hills that seem frozen mid-wave, and dawn skies, ablaze with drifting hot air balloons. But beneath this dreamlike landscape lies a far stranger reality, an immense, man-made underworld. Here, deep below the surface, stretch vast labyrinths of interconnected cities, tunnels, and stone-hewn chambers, some plunging 85 meters down, forming one of the most extraordinary and mysterious subterranean networks ever discovered, known as the subterranean vaults of Cappadocia. Who do you think was the first to create the massive underground labyrinths beneath Cappadocia, and what was their true purpose? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The underground cities of Cappadocia, especially Derinkuyu and Kaymakli, were not merely temporary shelters, but fully developed survival systems planned to sustain and protect tens of thousands of people, along with their livestock, food supplies, and water for extended periods. Derinkuyu astonishes, with 18 successive levels reaching a depth of over 85 meters, enough to be completely shielded from any threats on the surface. Kaymakli, on the other hand, spreads horizontally like a multi-tiered labyrinth, with a network of tunnels, functional rooms, and storage chambers intricately connected. Both exemplify an extraordinary level of organization, tunneling skill, and spatial management far exceeding what we usually imagine of ancient communities' capabilities. The tunnels of Cappadocia were carved through layers of soft volcanic tuff, a rock easy to shape, yet strong enough to maintain its structure for thousands of years. Inside, the space is divided into clearly designated areas: sleeping quarters, kitchens, underground churches, storage rooms, livestock pens, wine-making rooms, and even schools. The corridors are narrow and low, forcing intruders to bend down, slowing their movement and combat ability. At strategic points, massive round stone doors, up to 1.5 meters in diameter and weighing more than 500 ki, were positioned to roll into place and block passages. These doors could only be opened from the inside, turning the entire city into an impregnable fortress. The ventilation system is also a masterpiece of engineering. Hundreds of shafts and air ducts were cleverly arranged to ensure airflow throughout all levels, even at great depths. Some water wells were designed so they could not be poisoned from the surface, allowing residents to live underground for many consecutive months. The true purpose of Cappadocia's underground cities remains a subject of lively debate among researchers. Most scholars agree that these massive structures were used as safe havens during times of war and invasion, particularly in the Byzantine era, when residents needed to defend themselves against Arab attacks from the 7th to the 10th centuries. However, certain archaeological traces, such as architectural styles, excavation techniques, and the deepest levels, suggest that many areas may have been created during the Iron Age or even in prehistoric times and later expanded and improved by subsequent civilizations. Beyond military reasons, many scholars have proposed that Cappadocia's inhabitants used them to cope with harsh climates, protecting crops and livestock from cold seasonal winds, droughts, or sudden weather changes. There is even a bold theory that their original purpose was to withstand global-scale disasters such as supervolcanic eruptions or abrupt climate shifts, an idea without concrete evidence, yet one that underscores the vital importance of these structures to the survival of the communities of that era. What makes the subterranean vaults of Cappadocia one of the greatest archaeological enigmas in the world is the complete absence of any written records relating to their origin and construction. No ancient document mentions who initiated the work, what techniques were applied, or how much time was required to complete a structure that plunges dozens of meters underground with such astonishing complexity. This leaves a significant gap in our understanding, keeping theories about their origins in a perpetual state of speculation. When surveyed, modern engineers discovered many details that suggest a level of technical sophistication far beyond what is typically attributed to the ancient communities of this region. For example, the placement of ventilation shafts is so precisely calculated that it maintains stable airflow even at the deepest levels, while the distribution of rock loads prevents collapse. Although most of the excavation material is volcanic tuff, a relatively soft and workable stone, maintaining its structural strength without damaging surrounding sections would have required advanced chiseling and reinforcement techniques that we have yet to accurately replicate. Another puzzling question is, how did ancient builders orient themselves and design tens of kilometers of interwoven tunnels without getting lost or accidentally compromising the structural integrity? Modern surveys indicate that their planning was equivalent to three-dimensional spatial mapping, yet at the time, such a concept was supposedly unknown. In fact, some tunnels link underground cities up to 8 to 10 kilometers apart, suggesting coordination and organization on a regional scale far beyond ordinary defensive needs. The mystery does not end there. Many deep levels of the system remain unexplored due to collapse risks and lack of oxygen. This means we still cannot determine the true extent of the network. Some archaeologists believe there may be massive sections beneath Cappadocia that have never been touched, potentially holding rare artifacts, religious structures, or even evidence of a civilization that has vanished from history. All these elements make Cappadocia not just a labyrinth of architecture, but also a labyrinth of knowledge, where each new discovery raises more questions than answers. To this day, the subterranean vaults of Cappadocia remain a symbol of human ingenuity and creativity in the ancient world, and a testament to the gaps in our understanding of history. Each time a new tunnel is discovered, instead of answers, we are confronted with even more questions. Who first began the excavation? Why did they choose to live underground? And will we ever truly find the real answers? High above the crashing waves of the Aegean, where the wind sings ancient hymns and the horizon stretches into eternity, stands the Temple of Poseidon at Sunion. For ancient sailors, it was a beacon of hope, the final farewell as they set sail, and the first embrace upon their return. Yet beyond its breathtaking beauty lies a deeper enigma. How was this marble giant raised atop a windswept cliff more than 400 years ago? The secrets of its construction, the origin of its stone, and the mastery that has preserved it against time remain shrouded in mystery, daring historians and scientists to unravel its story. What do you think is the greatest mystery of the Temple of Poseidon at Sunion? Is it the technique used to transport and erect massive marble blocks on a windswept cliff, or an ancient knowledge long lost to humanity? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The temple stands on a rugged headland, battered by strong sea winds year-round, with foaming waves crashing against sheer cliffs. This was not an easy place to transport materials or build in the 5th century BC. Why then did the ancient Greeks choose this exact location? Some scholars suggest Sunion held both religious value as a memorial to Poseidon, the sea god, who protected sailors, and military and maritime significance, allowing Athens to control strategic trade routes in the Aegean. This means that construction here required preparation far beyond that of a typical religious site. One of the most fascinating hypotheses about the Temple of Poseidon at Sunion is its connection with two other structures, the Temple of Aphaea on the island of Aegina and the Temple of Hephaestus in Athens. When these three sites are linked on a map, they form an almost perfect triangle, leading many researchers to believe that the ancient Greeks chose their locations not only for religious or geomantic reasons, but also based on precise astronomical observations. If this is true, the positioning and construction of the Temple of Poseidon would be an extraordinary achievement requiring deep knowledge of geometry, surveying, and orientation skills that, even with modern technology, would be challenging to apply in such rugged terrain. This sacred triangle hypothesis not only suggests a sacred network connecting major religious centers, but also hints at the existence of a scientific understanding and planning mindset far beyond what is commonly assumed about ancient Greece. Among all aspects of the Temple of Poseidon at Sunion, perhaps the mystery of its architecture and materials is the one that has puzzled archaeologists, construction engineers, and material experts the most. Built around 440 BC, during the height of Athens' power, the first surprising fact is the pure white marble used in its construction. Geological analysis shows that this type of marble does not naturally occur at Sunion, but was most likely quarried from Agrigenta or Larion, located dozens of kilometers away. This raises a daunting question. How could the ancient Greeks transport hundreds of multi-ton marble blocks over steep, rugged terrain to a headland jutting into the sea, given the extremely limited transportation technology of the time? Some theories suggest they used wooden rafts to move the stone by sea, combined with pulley and lever systems to haul them up to the construction site. However, no direct archaeological evidence has yet confirmed that these methods were actually used at Sunion. Beyond the mystery of the marble's origin, the temple's ability to withstand harsh weather is equally perplexing. Cape Sunion is constantly exposed to strong winds, salty sea spray, and violent storms conditions that typically cause stone to erode quickly. Yet many of the marble blocks here have retained much of their surface detail even after more than 2,400 years. Some physical studies suggest that the ancient Greeks may have applied advanced surface treatment techniques or coated the stone with a special protective layer to resist corrosion. If true, this would indicate a level of material science and preservation knowledge far beyond what is recorded in ancient texts, hinting that a portion of this technical wisdom may have been lost to history. In terms of precision and aesthetics, the temple's Doric columns stand nearly 6 meters tall with large diameters, yet their proportions were calculated to create a perfect sense of harmony from every viewing angle. Notably, each column has a subtle curvature known as entices that tricks the human eye into perceiving them as perfectly straight. This achievement reflects not only exceptional craftsmanship, but also a deep understanding of visual perception and spatial awareness. The mystery does not end there. On some of the stone blocks beyond the famous 19th century signature of poet Lord Byron, there are older symbols and markings that have yet to be deciphered. They may have been masons' marks to record positioning or assembly order, but some theories propose that they were religious symbols or a form of positional code used during construction. Whatever their meaning, these carvings remain an incomplete piece of the puzzle, ensuring that the mystery of the Temple of Poseidon continues to challenge human curiosity. Cape Sunion is tied to the tragic tale of King Aegeus, who leapt into the sea believing his son Theseus had died. The Aegean Sea was named after him. The Temple of Poseidon thus became not only a shrine to the sea god, but also a monument to tragedy and loyalty values that give the site a powerful spiritual weight. In addition to its religious role, the Temple of Poseidon at Sunion was likely an important observation point and signal station for the Athenian fleet. From this vantage point, watchmen could survey strategic maritime routes, spotting approaching ships or potential threats early. At night, fires may have been lit on the headland to guide sailors, serving a function similar to a primitive lighthouse, helping ensure the safety of both commercial and military activities in the Aegean Sea. Despite wars, earthquakes, and the passage of time, much of the temple still stands a testament to the technical skill and vision of the ancient Greeks. The blending of art, engineering, and adaptation to a harsh environment has made it one of antiquity's architectural masterpieces, while still challenging modern science to fully unravel its secrets. In 1881, within a secret tomb at Deir el-Bahari, Egyptian archaeologists discovered a cache of royal mummies, relocated there to protect them from tomb robbers. Among them, the most striking was not a mighty pharaoh, but an unidentified mummy with a gaping mouth, head tilted back, and an expression frozen as if screaming in the final moments of life. He was named the Screaming Mummy. At first glance, he unsettled archaeologists. Unlike the serene faces of most royal mummies, this face was locked in pain or terror. The mouth agape, teeth, exposed neck and shoulders tensed, the whole body evoked the image of someone who died in agony or overwhelming panic. What do you think really happened to the Screaming Mummy? Was it the result of unbearable physical pain, or simply the outcome of an unusual decomposition process? Share your theory in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Historical records suggest that the Screaming Mummy was most likely a member of the royal family, as his body was buried in the same area as powerful pharaohs such as Seti I and Ramesses II. Modern DNA analysis has confirmed that he was closely related to Pharaoh Ramesses III, the ruler infamous for the shocking harem conspiracy. Many researchers believe this was Prince Pentawere, son of Ramesses III, who was accused of taking part in a plot to overthrow his father and seize the throne. The harem conspiracy was a violent coup in which Queen Tiya, one of Ramesses III's wives, conspired with officials and soldiers to place her son on the throne. The plan ended in disastrous failure, and ancient records state that those involved were either executed or forced to commit suicide, closing a chapter of ambition steeped in tragedy in the history of ancient Egypt. When archaeologists opened the coffin, they found the body bound tightly at the hands and feet, something almost unheard of in Egyptian royal burials, which were meant to embody dignity and reverence. Instead of being wrapped in fine linen layers, the body was encased in animal skin, a material considered impure and often used to disgrace criminals or outcasts. The mummification technique was also entirely unorthodox. The body was not opened to remove the internal organs, nor was it treated with natron to dehydrate and preserve it as tradition dictated. Skipping these steps allowed natural decomposition to occur partially before the body dried, which may have contributed to the facial distortion, the eternal scream expression that makes this mummy truly one of a kind in the history of archaeology. In ancient Egyptian culture, death was not seen as the end, but as a transition to a new existence in the afterlife. A flawless mummification process was considered essential for the soul's eternal survival. Yet the screaming mummy was completely stripped of this privilege. Archaeological evidence shows that his internal organs were left inside the body and decomposed, naturally altering the color, tissue structure, and overall shape of the corpse. There were no traces of the fine resins or aromatic oils typically used for royalty. Instead, the body was wrapped crudely, even in materials regarded as impure, such as animal skin. This break from traditional funerary practice reflects the way society at the time judged the deceased as a traitor or someone guilty of a grave offense, unworthy of being granted the honored journey to the afterlife through proper ceremonial rites. The mystery surrounding the cause of death of the screaming mummy is the most debated aspect, as it may hold the key to explaining the haunting expression preserved for over 3,000 years. Historians and forensic experts have proposed multiple theories, each painting a different story and fate for this man. Some scholars believe he may have been Prince Pentawere publicly executed for participating in a plot to overthrow Pharaoh Ramesses III. If he was hanged or strangled, the tensed neck and gaping mouth could be the direct result of death by asphyxiation. However, X-ray and CT scan examinations have shown no clear signs of trauma to the neck bones or larynx, which weakens this theory. A more widely accepted theory suggests he was forced to commit suicide by ingesting poison, possibly from the hemlock plant, or a cyanide-based compound. Such a toxin could have caused violent convulsions, rigid contraction of the facial and jaw muscles, and preserved the screaming expression when the body dried. Some analysis of the remaining stomach tissue revealed abnormal signs, but not enough scientific evidence to confirm it conclusively. Another approach from forensic specialists argues that this expression may not reflect physical pain at all, but rather the result of sudden death under extreme terror, such as being attacked unexpectedly or even buried alive. In a state of utmost fear, the body can enter intense rigor mortis, and if decomposition and desiccation occur quickly, the posture could be locked in place forever. Finally, some researchers suggest that the scream might simply be a visual illusion caused by post-mortem biological processes. When the mouth is left open and the facial muscles are not secured with wrappings, the connective tissues in the jaw decompose, causing the lower jaw to drop and creating the appearance of a scream. The lack of proper mummification rituals would have made this effect even more pronounced. Regardless of which cause is correct, each theory is tied to the political, social, and ritual context of ancient Egypt. To this day, the screaming mummy remains silent, leaving us with a frozen moment in time, both a warning of the ruthlessness of power and an unanswered question in history. Modern DNA studies have confirmed the father-son relationship between the screaming mummy and Pharaoh Ramesses III, strongly reinforcing the theory that he was Prince Pentawere, the central figure in the infamous harem conspiracy. CT scan results reveal that he died very young, at only around 18 to 20 years old, and was in good health prior to his death. Notably, no signs of fatal trauma were found on the body, ruling out the possibility of death by direct physical violence. This evidence has led scientists to lean more toward the theory that he died from poisoning or asphyxiation methods that leave little trace on bones and soft tissues, yet are capable of ending life swiftly and silently. The screaming mummy is not only a shocking archaeological find, but also a reflection of the ruthless politics of Egypt's royal court. Beneath the crude wrappings lies a tale of power betrayal and retribution. Though the exact cause of death remains unconfirmed, whether from poison execution or as a result of a deliberately dishonorable burial, his end has left an indelible mark on human imagination. That scream, echoing silently through millennia, reminds us that history is written not only in triumph and glory, but also in the quiet tragedies buried in the sands of time. Carved into the windswept slopes of the Paracas Peninsula in Peru, a colossal geoglyph stares eternally out to the Pacific Ocean. Measuring nearly 2 football fields in length, it blazes into view from as far as 20 kilometers offshore, a silent, cryptic signal etched into the desert for millennia. Is it a sacred emblem, a mariner's beacon, or a message meant for eyes beyond this world known as the Paracas candelabra? This massive 3-pronged design has outlasted empires, resisted the fury of the coastal winds, and kept its secret locked tight, daring generations of scientists and explorers to solve its mystery. So what do you think the Paracas candelabra really is? A sacred religious symbol, an ancient maritime navigation marker, or a mysterious message to beings from beyond Earth? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments section below. The Paracas candelabra measures about 180-190 meters long and over 60 meters wide, with grooves cut 60-80 centimeters deep into sand mixed with rock. The technique appears simple, removing the dark surface sand to reveal the lighter sediment beneath. However, the enormous size required precise geometric calculations to maintain proportions when viewed from a distance, particularly from the sea. Remarkably, the geoglyph's durability stands out. For thousands of years, strong winds, salty mist, and sandstorms have failed to blur its lines. Many scientists believe that constant winds blow away new sand deposits, keeping the grooves exposed, a rare form of natural preservation. Analyses of pottery fragments found near the Paracas candelabra suggest that the monument may have been created sometime between 800 BCE and 100 CE, coinciding with the flourishing period of the Paracas culture, renowned for its sophisticated mummification techniques, masterful textile craftsmanship, and elaborate burial rituals. However, what is striking is that there is no direct evidence proving the Paracas people were indeed the creators of this massive geoglyph. This gap in the record leaves room for multiple possibilities. It may be the legacy of an unknown pre-Paracas culture, or a multicultural symbol that was inherited and recarved by successive generations of coastal inhabitants, each adding their own imprint, making the story of its origins even more difficult to unravel. When it comes to the Paracas candelabra, the biggest question posed by archaeologists, historians, and even enthusiasts of fringe theories is, why was this colossal creation made unlike the Nazca lines, most of which lie on flat terrain and are visible only from above? The Paracas candelabra is carved into a steep hillside, facing directly toward the sea. This feature not only affects how it can be seen, but also opens the door to multiple interpretations of its function and meaning. One of the most widely supported theories is that the Paracas candelabra was a prehistoric lighthouse, a massive landmark to help sailors navigate offshore. In antiquity, the waters around Paracas were often shrouded in thick fog, making navigation difficult. From roughly 20 kilometers out at sea, sailors could see this geoglyph standing out against the pale hillside, using it to determine their position and direction. The strength of this theory lies in the site's strategic position and high visibility from the sea, coupled with evidence that Paracas was once a hub of maritime trade. However, unanswered questions remain. If it was simply a navigational marker, why choose such a complex, three-branched candelabrum shape instead of a simpler, easier-to-carve symbol? Additionally, there is no archaeological evidence that it was ever paired with light-fire signals or any other visual beacons. Another perspective suggests it is a spiritual emblem of the local people, possibly linked to worship of the god Viracocha, the creator deity in Andean mythology. The three branches of the geoglyph could represent the three realms in Andean cosmology: Hanan Pacha, the heavenly world of the gods; Kai Pacha, the present world of humans; Uku Pacha, the underworld of ancestors and spirits. If true, the Paracas candelabra could have been a focal point for rituals facing the ocean, which in many Andean cultures was considered a gateway to the sacred realm. Yet no ancient texts, legends, or similar symbols have been found to confirm this interpretation. Some researchers lean toward the theory that the geoglyph could have been an astronomical calendar or an instrument for tracking celestial events. Its branches might correspond to the rising or setting points of significant stars, planets, or seasonal markers. This fits the fact that many pre-Columbian civilizations possessed highly advanced astronomical knowledge. However, to date, no astronomical study has produced a perfect match between the alignment of the branches and any specific celestial events, leaving this theory in the realm of possibility rather than certainty. Another idea is that the Paracas candelabra served as a symbol of authority, a gigantic flag asserting territorial control of the ancient inhabitants. Its three-pronged shape could relate to ancient weapons, such as tridents or triple spears, designed to leave a strong impression on those approaching from the sea. While this theory makes psychological and political sense, no archaeological evidence indicates that the Paracas Peninsula was once a major military center or had large-scale defenses requiring such a symbolic show of force. Fans of unconventional theories often compare the Paracas candelabra to the Nazca lines, suggesting it could be a signal to extraterrestrials or a marker for visitors from the sky. Its massive scale and high visibility from above lend some surface credibility to the idea. While this theory cannot be completely dismissed without definitive evidence, it lacks scientific grounding and has no direct cultural or archaeological connections to support it. In conclusion, each theory has its strengths and weaknesses, but all share the fact that there is still no definitive answer. This uncertainty is exactly what makes the Paracas candelabra one of the most captivating archaeological enigmas in South America, a place where every new study only makes us realize we have barely scratched the surface of a story stretching back thousands of years. One aspect that makes the Paracas candelabra just as remarkable as its mysterious purpose is its extraordinary preservation over thousands of years. Situated on a sandy rocky hillside facing the sea, the geoglyph endures constant strong winds, salty mist, and sandstorms. Yet these harsh conditions actually act as a natural self-cleaning system. The wind sweeps away newly deposited sand, revealing the lighter-colored rock beneath and keeping the grooves sharply defined. Combined with the arid climate and stable geological structure, the Paracas candelabra has suffered almost no erosion, retaining its clear and distinct shape for millennia, despite its coastal location, which is normally highly prone to severe weathering. Today, the Paracas candelabra is a major tourist attraction and a cultural icon of the region. It appears in documentaries, films, and global mystery programs. Yet its greatest value lies in challenging human imagination and fueling debate among scientists, historians, and alternative theory enthusiasts. After decades of study, the Paracas candelabra still offers no definitive answer to who made it and why. It might have been a maritime marker, a profound religious symbol, or even a timeless message. Whatever the truth, this enigma continues to spark curiosity, because sometimes it is the mystery itself that makes a heritage immortal. Long before the pyramids turned to sand and the Sphinx's gaze weathered under the desert wind, the Nile carried a living god through its murky waters, Sobek, the crocodile deity. To the ancient Egyptians, his jaws were both a promise of protection and a threat of divine wrath. And to honor, or perhaps appease, this fearsome power, they performed a ritual unlike any other, mummifying crocodiles by the hundreds. From tiny hatchlings to massive beasts over 4 meters long, these reptilian relics still lie hidden in the desert's tombs and temple vaults, whispering of a mystery that blends faith, fear, and the economics of devotion. What do you think about the ancient Egyptians mummifying hundreds of crocodiles to worship the god Sobek? Was this purely a religious ritual, or did it conceal a deeper economic and political purpose? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In the belief system of ancient Egypt, Sobek was depicted with the head of a crocodile and the body of a man, symbolizing physical strength, the fertility of the land, and the ability to protect those living along the Nile. However, he also represented the brutality and danger of nature, much like the swift, powerful strikes of crocodiles on the water's surface. To the Egyptians, Sobek was both a god who bestowed blessings and bountiful harvests, and an embodiment of fear that needed to be appeased. They believed that proper worship and ritual offerings could persuade Sobek to protect them from natural disasters, wild animals, and the many dangers lurking in the river. At many excavation sites in Egypt, archaeologists have uncovered a large number of Sobek crocodile mummies, ranging from newly hatched young to massive, fully grown specimens over 4 meters long. This diversity in size shows that the mummification ritual was not limited to special individuals, but encompassed the entire life cycle of this sacred creature. Many mummies are so well preserved that individual sharp teeth and the scale patterns on the dried skin are still clearly visible. Notably, some even contain crocodile eggs wrapped in linen, suggesting symbolic meanings of fertility, rebirth, and the cycle of life. Key elements in the ancient Egyptian worship of Sobek. The mummification technique for Sobek crocodiles had distinct differences compared to human mummification. Instead of removing the internal organs to prevent decay, many crocodiles were kept completely intact then tightly wrapped in layers of linen, soaked in resin aromatic oils, or plant-based preservation mixtures. This method not only saved time and suited large-scale preparation, but also reflected the religious belief that the spirit of the god Sobek would remain more complete if the crocodile's body was left untouched. Notably, some mummies were wrapped in fine linen, printed or embroidered with religious motifs symbolizing Sobek's power and strength. Certain specimens were even accompanied by protective amulets or carved symbols, showing that this was not merely a process of preserving the body, but a solemn ritual imbued with deep spiritual meaning and the religious authority of ancient Egypt. Modern research has provided profound insights into the Sobek crocodile mummies through the analysis of DNA, bone structure, and chemical isotopes. Findings reveal that most specimens originated from the Nile Basin and the Lake Moeris-Fayum area, once one of the richest ecosystems in ancient Egypt. Remarkably, some mummies still contain undigested food in their stomachs, including fish, water birds, and even small mammals, allowing scientists to reconstruct the ancient ecological landscape in detail. This data also suggests that the Egyptians may have kept crocodiles in controlled environments or selectively hunted them in specific locations for ritual and religious purposes. The greatest mystery surrounding the Sobek crocodile mummies lies in the question of their true purpose behind being created in such vast numbers. Archaeological discoveries show that there were not merely dozens or hundreds, but in some places, thousands of crocodile mummies of varying sizes, from newly hatched young to massive fully grown adults. This has led researchers to propose several hypotheses, with three main explanations standing out. The first and most traditional hypothesis is that these mummies were direct offerings to the god Sobek. The ancient Egyptians believed that presenting Sobek with an intact, carefully preserved specimen would bring protection, bountiful harvests, and ward off misfortune. These crocodiles might have been hunted in the wild, or specially bred for major festivals, then mummified and placed in temples. The second hypothesis points toward the concept of a religious economy, suggesting that the large-scale production of crocodile mummies functioned much like the mass manufacture of votive statues or amulets. Pilgrims visiting Sobek sanctuaries could purchase small mummified crocodiles or parts of them to offer as tribute. This model created a year-round religious economic supply chain, sustaining devotion while generating financial benefits for the temples and surrounding communities. The third hypothesis emphasizes political symbolism, seeing the stockpiling and display of vast numbers of crocodile mummies as a way for Sobek's priesthood to showcase their power. Such an impressive display would both reinforce the faith of the populace and assert the exclusive authority of the religious elite in the region. However, none of these theories have been able to fully explain the phenomenon, leaving a gap in our understanding, one that continues to make this subject a focal point of debate in the archaeology of ancient Egypt. Although many hypotheses have been proposed, several questions remain unanswered. Did the ancient Egyptians operate holy crocodile farms to breed and prepare animals for large-scale rituals rather than relying solely on wild hunting? Does the ratio of juvenile to adult crocodiles among the mummies reflect a belief in rebirth and an eternal life cycle? And what percentage of these specimens actually came from the wild, a practice that may have significantly impacted the Nile's ecosystem at the time? These questions remain open, continuing to spark the curiosity of the scientific community. Today, the Sobek crocodile mummies are not only vivid evidence of a unique belief system, but also an invaluable source of biological data. Through the analysis of DNA, bone structure, and preservation chemicals, scientists can trace the evolutionary history of the Nile crocodile, identify climate and environmental changes over millennia and explore how ancient Egyptian society organized its economy around a powerful religious symbol. Sobek crocodile mummies are a clear example of how ancient religion was deeply intertwined with economics and politics. Mummifying crocodiles was not simply a sacred ritual, it may have been part of a complex socio-economic system where faith and profit overlapped. And it is precisely this ambiguity that makes them one of the most fascinating mysteries of ancient Egypt, a subject that continues to inspire debate among scholars today. Beneath the unforgiving sun of Iran's Sistan-Baluchistan desert lies a city frozen in time, Shahr-i Sokhta, the burnt city. Once a glittering hub of trade and craftsmanship, it connected the great civilizations of Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, and Central Asia over 4,000 years ago. Its streets bustled with merchants, artisans, and leaders, until without warning, the life of the city was snuffed out. No gradual decline, no long farewell, just sudden silence. What catastrophe erased this Bronze Age powerhouse from the map after more than 400 years of prosperity, and why do its remains still whisper of an ending no one can fully explain? What do you think truly happened to Shahr-i Sokhta? Was it a fire, a drought, a shift in trade, or something we've yet to uncover? Share your theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on this ancient mystery. Shahr-i Sokhta was by no means a small, isolated town, but a strategic center located beside the ancient Helmand River, a vital waterway linking the great civilizations of its time. From here, goods, raw materials, and ideas flowed between Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, and Central Asia. Excavations have uncovered turquoise mined in Iran, gemstones from Afghanistan, pottery in the Baluchistan style, and traces of manufacturing techniques originating from India. This diversity shows that Shahr-i Sokhta was not merely a place of residence, but also a hub where trade, technology, and culture converged and spread. The city served both as a transit station for goods and as a crossroads for ideas, helping shape the vast network of exchange in the ancient world. Since excavations began in 1967, Shahr-i Sokhta has revealed a series of unparalleled archaeological discoveries, making it a rare treasure of the Bronze Age. Most striking is the world's oldest artificial eye, found in the grave of a noblewoman. This prosthetic, made from a mixture of bitumen paste and gold, was so finely crafted that it could reflect light, demonstrating an astonishing level of medical and aesthetic skill more than 4,000 years ago. Another remarkable find is a 4,000-year-old human brain, naturally preserved in the extreme arid heat of the desert, providing invaluable data for the study of ancient medicine. Equally fascinating, archaeologists uncovered a ceramic vessel with 5 sequential images depicting a goat leaping to eat tree leaves. When the vessel is spun, the images create the illusion of movement, considered a precursor to animation art. In addition, a wealth of metal artifacts, gemstones, tools, jewelry, and finely crafted pottery show that the inhabitants of Shahr-i Sokhta possessed masterful craftsmanship, capable of producing items with both practical utility and high artistic value. Shahr-i Sokhta spanned approximately 151 hectares, with a clearly defined layout that included separate functional zones, residential areas, production districts, cemeteries, and possibly an administrative center. Remains of a water management system, mud brick structures, and workshops for crafting turquoise pottery and metal tools reveal a remarkably advanced level of social organization and technical skill for its time. Archaeological finds from the burial grounds reflect clear social stratification, Wealthy graves contained exquisite jewelry, bronze mirrors, and stone vessels, in stark contrast to poorer graves with only a few simple objects. Notably, many women's graves held artifacts equal to or even surpassing those of men, suggesting that women's roles and influence in this society may have been more significant than in many other civilizations of the same era. Around 1800 BCE, Shahr-i Sokhta, the burnt city, suddenly vanished from the map of human civilization, leaving behind one of the most hotly debated archaeological mysteries in history. Unlike other ancient cities that gradually declined over centuries, this place seems to have been abandoned within a very short time. Buildings, household items, workshops, and even traces of daily life remained intact, as if the inhabitants had only just left in haste. What could have caused a thriving center that had existed for more than 400 years to be erased so abruptly? Several hypotheses have been proposed. Some suggest that climate change altered or dried up the Helmand River, the city's lifeline. In the harsh desert conditions of the Sistan region, losing a water source meant certain death for the entire community. Other researchers focus on the possibility of trade decline if trade routes were disrupted by wars or epidemics in neighboring civilizations. Shahr-i Sokhta's economy, heavily reliant on the exchange of goods, would have collapsed rapidly. In addition, thick layers of ash found in many areas suggest a massive fire may have destroyed much of the city. However, the true cause of the fire, earthquake, war, or accident, has yet to be determined. Another line of thought considers the possibility of conflict or forced migration. Some evidence of violence has been found, but not enough to confirm a large-scale invasion. It's also possible that the inhabitants abandoned the city entirely in search of more fertile lands. What puzzles archaeologists most is that no direct evidence fully confirms any single theory. Clues remain: scattered ash layers, hastily buried human remains, abandoned workshops, and even freshly dug but unfinished graves. The final day of Shahr-i Sokhta thus remains a hazy picture, shrouded in the dust and hot winds of the desert, awaiting answers from future excavations. Shahr-i Sokhta is not only an archaeological site of immense value, but also a vivid reminder of the fragility of ancient civilizations. Its sudden collapse shows that even with sophisticated social organization and extensive trade networks, a city could vanish within just a few years if environmental conditions or political economic circumstances shifted. Today, every new excavation at Shahr-i Sokhta reveals another piece of the puzzle, but also raises new questions. Will we ever truly discover the cause of the burnt city's abrupt end? Or will that secret remain forever buried beneath the scorching sands of Sistan? In the heart of Ethiopia's Garage Highlands, where rolling green fields meet the endless horizon, stands a place that feels less like a landscape and more like a page torn from an unwritten chapter of human history. This is Tiya, a field of towering stone sentinels, over 36 in all, each rising between 1 and 5 meters, etched with mysterious carvings that defy time and translation. They are not mere rocks scattered by chance, but deliberate monuments, silent witnesses to a civilization long vanished, yet still speaking in a cryptic language of stone that modern scholars have yet to fully decode. What do you think these towering stones were meant to say to future generations? Share your theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Tiya was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1980, and it is no coincidence that it is ranked among the most important megalithic monuments in Africa. The allure of Tiya lies not only in the beauty of its intricately carved stelae, but also in the fog of time that shrouds their origin's age and true meaning. At Tiya, each standing stone resembles a distinct stele, bearing unique carvings, yet sharing an oddly consistent style. Most striking is the sword motif, appearing repeatedly, sometimes carved large, and placed at the center like a declaration of power, honor, or warrior status. Alongside it are human figures with outstretched arms, circles, chevrons, and geometric symbols never seen in neighboring cultures. This has led researchers to believe that they were not scattered works created over centuries, but the product of a single historical period and a unified belief system. Yet the questions of which period and which culture remain unanswered. After more than half a century of excavation and study, Tiya still guards the secret of the people who raised these stones, leaving future generations with a stone-coded message that science continues to labor to decipher. One of the most fascinating mysteries of Tiya lies in the unclear dating and cultural origins of the site. Unlike many other megalithic monuments around the world, often linked to a specific historical period or community through texts, legends, or archaeological records, Tiya has no direct connection to any known historical sources. Radiocarbon dating of artifacts found near the area indicates an age of roughly 700–1500 years ago. However, this time frame does not match any major known culture in Ethiopia. It falls during a transitional phase between the post-Aksumite period and the emergence of early Islamic communities in the Horn of Africa, yet the stone carving style of Tiya is entirely different from both. This has sparked a range of opposing theories. Some believe Tiya was the heritage of a semi-nomadic group living in the highlands, engaged in trade, yet preserving a distinct belief system and symbolic language. Others picture it as the remnant of a warrior society where the stone pillars were erected to record victories or honor fallen heroes. The mystery deepens when certain motifs at Tiya are found to resemble megalithic sites in Kenya, Tanzania, and Sudan, though the geographical and chronological distances make it difficult to connect them into a unified cultural network. This leads to a compelling question: could Tiya be a surviving island of memory from an ancient civilization that once spanned across East Africa, now preserved only in these solemn, silent stones? When archaeologists excavated Tiya, they discovered numerous graves located directly at the base of the stone pillars, containing human remains, iron tools, and sometimes even weapons. This strongly supports the theory that Tiya was not merely a religious or ceremonial site, but also served as a cemetery for an organized community. The sword carvings on the stones may have been marks of honor, recognizing the warrior status of the deceased, or they may have held spiritual meaning, symbolizing weapons to protect the soul from supernatural forces on its journey to the afterlife. Whatever their significance, it is clear that Tiya was more than a physical structure. It was also a cultural and spiritual message, preserved for centuries, reflecting how an ancient community commemorated and safeguarded the memory of those who had passed away. One of the reasons Tiya has remained an enduring mystery for centuries lies in the lack of comparative data. There are no written records, no intact oral traditions, and virtually no archaeological artifacts beyond the stone pillars themselves, making research feel like piecing together a puzzle from only a few scattered fragments. Scientists can only rely on the carvings, the site's geographical position, and a handful of excavated artifacts to form hypotheses, but the evidence remains limited. Preservation work is equally challenging. Wind-rain climate change and natural erosion are steadily wearing away the carved surfaces. Some pillars have tilted or suffered from foundation erosion. UNESCO and the Ethiopian government are working together to reinforce the site, conduct 3D scans, and implement protective measures against human impact, But all these efforts require long-term financial resources, manpower, and commitment. Tiya stands as proof of the diversity of non-literate cultures in human history. Even without a written script, the people who built Tiya created a language in stone, at once abstract and visual. It shows that across the world, humans have always sought to mark their existence and collective memory, whether through paper oral tradition or solemn stones standing amid nature. To this day, Tiya has yet to reveal its full story. Dating the site is only part of the answer. Which culture built it, what they believed, and why they vanished are still open questions. With each new hypothesis, Tiya seems to open yet another branch of mystery, like an ancient book, missing entire chapters, leaving future generations with both curiosity and inspiration. Perhaps it is this very ambiguity that makes Tiya one of Africa's most captivating monuments. It reminds us that no matter how far science advances, there will always be corners of human history still in shadow, and that the search for truth is itself part of the beauty. Perched high above the swirling mists of the Andes, where sheer cliffs plunge into valleys lost in clouds, lies Kuélap, a colossal stone citadel older than Machu Picchu and shrouded in even greater mystery. Rising over 3,000 meters into the thin mountain air, this Machu Picchu of the north was built not by the Inca, but by the enigmatic Chachapoya, the elusive warriors of the clouds. For centuries, its towering walls have guarded a secret that still puzzles archaeologists. Was this a fortress of war, a sanctuary of the gods, or something far stranger? What do you think Kuélap was truly built? For an impregnable fortress, a sacred sanctuary touching the clouds, or something far beyond our imagination? Share your thoughts in the comments below. From afar, Kuélap rises like a colossal stone wall, embracing the entire mountain peak, leaving an overwhelming impression at first sight. The entire complex is enclosed by walls up to 20 meters high, about 4 meters thick, and stretching nearly 600 meters, making it resemble an impregnable fortress. Archaeologists estimate that constructing it required 35 million cubic feet of stone, an enormous volume of material that even the most powerful civilizations would have taken decades to complete. Even more remarkable is that Kuélap stands atop a narrow, rugged mountain ridge, forcing ancient builders to transport, carve, and fit each stone under extremely challenging conditions. This achievement not only demanded advanced construction techniques, but also stands as proof of the extraordinary organizational skills, labor coordination, and communal strength of the Chachapoya civilization. Inside the sturdy outer walls of Kuélap lies a rich architectural complex with over 400 structures, most of them round stone houses, an iconic feature of the Chachapoya civilization, cleverly arranged to follow the mountain's terrain. Interspersed among the residential areas are temples, ceremonial buildings, and small plazas, indicating that this place served not only as a settlement, but also as a cultural and religious center. On some walls and foundations, intricately carved geometric patterns still remain, reflecting refined aesthetics and masterful stone craftsmanship. Notably, the entire fortress has only a few narrow V-shaped entrances, forcing anyone passing through to move in single file, allowing for maximum control and a strong defensive advantage. This layout has led many researchers to immediately associate Kuélap with one of the most formidable military fortresses in the Andes. However, this is precisely where the greatest mystery arises. Was Kuélap truly a fortress, or was its primary purpose something entirely different? One of the most widely supported archaeological theories suggests that Kuélap was originally built as a powerful military fortress to protect the Chachapoya from external threats, particularly neighboring empires such as the Wari and later the Inca. Its location atop a high mountain with steep slopes, combined with thick towering walls and narrow V-shaped gates that forced intruders to pass through in single file, all point to a clear strategy of defensive design. At over 3,000 meters above sea level, Kuélap's inhabitants enjoyed sweeping views of the surrounding valleys, allowing them to detect movement from afar and prepare for any confrontation in advance. This greatly reduced the risk of surprise or large-scale attacks. However, if Kuélap were merely a fortress, a major question remains: why are there so many ceremonial structures within? And why is its scale far greater than what a purely defensive community would require? These points prevent the military hypothesis from fully explaining Kuélap's true purpose. Some archaeologists believe that Kuélap was not merely a defensive fortress, but also one of the most important ceremonial and religious centers of the Chachapoya people. Evidence for this comes from numerous structures with distinctly ceremonial layouts, such as buildings identified as temples, mass burial pits, and areas dedicated exclusively to ritual activities. The round stone platforms with intricate carvings were not only dwellings, but also served as cultural symbols, reflecting the community's power, social status, and spiritual beliefs. Kuélap's unique location, where thick clouds shroud it almost year-round, gives it the image of a city in the sky, evoking a sense of closeness to the divine. In many ancient civilizations, choosing elevated locations for religious centers was a common tradition, and Kuélap may well be a prime example of that sacred connection between humanity and the supernatural world. Another line of research suggests that Kuélap served both as a military fortress and as the ceremonial capital of the Chachapoya people. In the context of the ancient Andes, political and religious power were often closely intertwined, so a center like Kuélap could simultaneously function as the residence of the elite, the venue for major rituals, and a refuge during times of war. This hypothesis explains why Kuélap possesses both robust defensive features and numerous ceremonial structures. Its massive scale, far exceeding the needs of a typical agricultural community, indicates that it may have been a gathering place for many groups from the surrounding region, serving both as a seat of power and a spiritual symbol, reinforcing the Chachapoya's prominence in the area. Despite decades of study, Kuélap's true purpose remains uncertain. Historical records on the Chachapoya are scarce, mostly derived from Inca and Spanish account sources shaped by cultural bias and conflict. Moreover, many parts of Kuélap remain unexcavated, meaning crucial clues may still lie buried beneath the earth and stone. Today, Kuélap continues to attract archaeologists and travelers alike. Yet with its unanswered questions, it is not merely a monument, but also a historical riddle. Was it an impregnable fortress, a sacred sanctuary touching the clouds, or a multifunctional seat of power for a vanished civilization? The answer could reshape our understanding of the Chachapoya and of how ancient civilizations blended warfare, religion, and politics. Hidden for centuries beneath a cloak of emerald jungle, Ciudad Perdida, the lost city of Colombia, remains one of the greatest enigmas of the ancient world. Nestled high in the misty slopes of the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, this sprawling stone metropolis was already thriving in the 8th century AD, nearly 700 years before Machu Picchu ever rose from the Andes. Its terraces, plazas, and stairways whisper of a powerful and sophisticated people, the Tairona, whose legacy was swallowed by time. For generations, only the guardians of the forest, the local indigenous tribes, knew of its existence, until a fateful discovery in the 1970s pulled back the veil and revealed a forgotten civilization to the modern world. Do you think the Tairona left Ciudad Perdida because of war, disease, or something even more mysterious? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your theory might unlock part of this ancient puzzle. The road to Ciudad Perdida is anything but easy, which is one reason the city has retained its pristine and mysterious aura to this day. To reach it, travelers must trek through dense jungle paths, cross multiple streams and swift rivers, and finally climb hundreds of steep stone steps leading to ancient foundations. The journey, lasting from 4 to 6 days, is a true challenge, with each step toward the city feeling like a journey back thousands of years in time. When archaeologists first reached the site, they were astonished by an extensive system of stone terraces and foundations. More than 170 stone steps connect different parts of the city, from stone-paved plazas to circular platforms where houses and public buildings once stood. All were masterfully constructed to make full use of the mountainous terrain and connected by intricately built stone paths. This urban planning reveals that the Tairona people, inhabitants of Ciudad Perdida, possessed social organization and construction skills far ahead of many civilizations of their time. At its height, Ciudad Perdida was likely a major political, economic, and religious hub for the Tairona. It not only concentrated population, but also connected many villages and communities in the region, serving as a center for trade as well as the site of important ceremonial events. With its strategic location along ancient trade routes, Ciudad Perdida was both a fortress of defense and the economic and spiritual heart of the Sierra Nevada. However, all of this became only a faded memory when the city was abandoned around the 16th century. And it is precisely this mystery of its decline that has sparked debate and curiosity among archaeologists for decades. No written records from the Tairona remain to tell the story of what truly happened. Researchers have proposed many theories, but all remain in the realm of speculation. One of the most widely accepted theories among researchers suggests that Ciudad Perdida fell into crisis shortly after the Spanish arrived in the Caribbean in the early 16th century. Although there are few direct records of encounters between the Spanish and Ciudad Perdida, other Tairona sites indicate that European diseases, especially smallpox, spread rapidly, causing catastrophic mortality rates. For a society so deeply bound to ritual and community like the Tairona, this sudden population collapse not only claimed thousands of lives, but also shattered the very foundations of their social and religious structure. Temples and plazas that had once thrived with activity fell silent, and the process of decline began to spread across the entire city. Another theory suggests that the decline of Ciudad Perdida stemmed from prolonged conflicts with hostile groups or with the Spanish themselves during the colonial period. Its strategic location and abundant resources may have made it a target for attacks aimed at controlling the land and trade routes. Under military pressure and the threat of occupation, the inhabitants may have been forced to abandon the city and seek refuge deeper in the mountains and forests. What is puzzling, however, is that archaeological surveys have found no clear evidence of large-scale warfare or widespread destruction, making this theory both plausible and a source of further mystery. Some modern researchers believe that the decline of Ciudad Perdida may have been closely linked to climatic or environmental changes. The Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta region has complex terrain and is highly sensitive to global climate shifts, meaning even a slight change in rainfall could have had a serious impact on water sources and crop yields. The degradation of agricultural land from continuous farming on steep slopes, combined with the risk of landslides or changes in the flow of mountain streams, may have reduced the city's ability to supply food and clean water to its inhabitants. As living conditions grew harsher, The Tairona may have been forced to abandon the city in search of more favorable areas for survival. Whatever the cause, the disappearance of Ciudad Perdida did not resemble a sudden catastrophic collapse. Instead, it seems to have been a gradual process in which residents quietly left one by one, leaving the stone architecture to be slowly reclaimed by the jungle. There were no great wars, no obvious natural disasters, only a silent vanishing from the map, leaving the rest of the world to forget it for centuries. Today, Ciudad Perdida still holds immense significance for the descendants of the Tairona, especially the Cogiwiwa and Ahuaco peoples. For them, this is not merely an archaeological site, but the spiritual center of the world, a place where they perform ancient rituals to maintain the balance between humanity and nature. For this reason, Ciudad Perdida is strictly protected, and all visits require the permission and guidance of the indigenous community. Compared to Machu Picchu, Ciudad Perdida surpasses it in both scale and age, yet remains far less known due to its difficult access and lack of major tourism promotion. This has inadvertently preserved it as a raw gem, pristine, mysterious, and irresistibly alluring to those who seek to uncover the unresolved secrets of human history. The mystery of Ciudad Perdida's decline remains an unanswered question, challenging archaeologists and historians alike. Perhaps it is the silence of the ancient jungle, the moss-covered steps, and the solemn stone foundations that hold the answer, and they will only reveal it to those patient and respectful enough of the past. When most people imagine petroglyphs, the ancient carvings etched into stone, they picture the sun-scorched deserts of the American West, towering red cliffs in Utah, shadowy canyons in Arizona, or the dry expanses of New Mexico, where thousands of mysterious figures sprawl across the rocks. But far from those iconic landscapes in the green heart of Pennsylvania lies a secret few have ever heard of: the Shamokin petroglyphs. Here, carved into weathered stone, along the banks of the Susquehanna River, are symbols and faces that defy explanation, cryptic messages left by ancient hands. Unlike the well-studied rock art of the West, this site is an anomaly, a rare outpost of prehistoric expression in the Northeast. And within these engravings lies not just archaeology, but a portal into a forgotten world of ritual myth and imagination. What do you think these mysterious carvings were meant to represent? Were they spiritual symbols, a form of communication, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. What makes the Shamokin petroglyphs extraordinary lies first in their geographical setting. Unlike the West, where rock carving became a familiar visual language, such sites in the Northeast are extremely rare. Pennsylvania has only a handful of recorded petroglyph locations, and Shamokin is one of them. For this reason, once discovered, they immediately became a precious treasure, an almost unique source of data for studying the spiritual life and symbolic culture of indigenous peoples in this region. The most captivating aspect of the Shamokin petroglyphs lies not only in their geographical rarity, but also in the diverse and enigmatic imagery they reveal. On the flat stones along the riverbank, one encounters a strange visual language: round faces with wide open eyes and gaping mouths as if shouting or chanting in ritual. Footprints and handprints carved into the rock as sacred imprints of ancestors, and familiar animals such as deerfish and turtle species closely tied to the hunting and fishing lifeways of indigenous peoples. Yet interwoven with these realistic depictions are countless abstract motif spirals, concentric circles, diamonds, and symbols that bear no resemblance to anything in the natural world. These compel researchers to ask, were they part of a secret symbolic system, a way of recording knowledge, or simply spiritual marks, never meant to be fully deciphered. It is precisely this blend of recognizable imagery and puzzling abstraction that makes the Shamokin petroglyphs one of the most intriguing archaeological enigmas of the northeastern United States. This diversity of style and subject matter creates a vivid picture of ancient consciousness. Unlike simple depictions of objects, many Shamokin carvings appear to carry layered symbolic meanings. The faces may represent ritual masks, signifying the role of shamans in connecting with the spiritual world. Concentric circles might allude to the sun cosmic cycles, or even indigenous observations of astronomy. Engraved footprints evoke the sense of a sacred pathway walked by ancestors and left behind for future generations. The animals carved here are surely more than everyday images. They are totemic creatures, embodying life power and the intimate bond between humans and nature. Scholars often stress that it is precisely the unresolved mystery of these carvings that makes the Shamokin petroglyphs so captivating. To this day, we lack a definitive dictionary of symbols to decode their meaning. Were they picture textbooks for children in the tribe transmitting knowledge of hunting, fishing, and animal identification? Were they sacred symbols intelligible only to insiders of the community? Or were they spontaneous artistic expressions, capturing moments of creativity by ancient artisans? The answer remains elusive. Interestingly, many Shamokin carvings bear stylistic similarities to other petroglyphs across the Northeast, suggesting the possible existence of a shared visual language among multiple cultures in the region. Some archaeologists even argue that they may reflect interactions between the Algonquian and Susquehannock peoples, both of whom once inhabited the Susquehanna River basin. If this hypothesis is correct, the Shamokin petroglyphs are not merely religious artworks, but also evidence of cultural exchange, interaction, and shared identity among diverse ancient groups. Beyond their imagery, the Shamokin petroglyphs are remarkable for their carving techniques. Prehistoric peoples lacked modern metal tools, yet they used harder stones to chip and grind into the bedrock, producing clear, durable grooves that have survived for centuries. Some carvings are impressively deep, demonstrating perseverance and craftsmanship. This raises a deeper question: why invest so much effort in these engravings unless they held sacred or profound significance? Today, the Shamokin petroglyphs are regarded as a spiritual bridge into the worldview of indigenous peoples. With little to no written records preserved, these rock carvings stand as the most direct evidence of how they understood the cosmos, nature, and humanity's place within it. They also remind us of an enduring truth: the language of symbols transcends time. Even after centuries, we still feel the power, vitality, and sacred aura emanating from these engravings. Yet precisely because of their uniqueness and rarity, the Shamokin petroglyphs face the danger of destruction. Their riverside setting exposes them to erosion from water moss and weathering. Modern humans, if not educated properly, may also inadvertently or deliberately damage them, erasing centuries-old carvings forever. This is why archaeologists and indigenous communities emphasize preservation, ensuring that Shamokin survives not just as an archaeological site, but as a living cultural symbol for future generations. Placed within the broader picture of North American archaeology, the Shamokin petroglyphs appear as a small yet indispensable puzzle piece. They reveal that even in less studied regions like Pennsylvania, ancient peoples were creative, leaving their mark on stone and connecting with nature and the divine through symbols. Most importantly, these carvings continue to challenge modern intellect. Can we ever truly decode them? Or will they remain forever as images we see but never fully understand? The Ohio River Valley is more than just a quiet stretch of American landscape. Beneath its rolling hills and forested ridges lies one of the greatest archaeological puzzles in North America. For centuries, this land has been home to colossal earthworks, vast circles, perfect squares, and serpent-like ridges of soil built by ancient hands. Archaeologists attribute them to cultures like the Adena Hopewell and Fort Ancient, whose engineering still astonishes us today. But alongside these accepted histories lurks a far stranger tale, one whispered in old newspapers, scribbled in explorers' journals, and buried in the forgotten reports of 19th-century digs. It is the legend of giant human skeletons, towering figures said to have been entombed within the mounds themselves. Were these merely exaggerations born of rumor and sensational press, or traces of a lost race that history has chosen to forget? Whatever the truth, these disputed discoveries have ignited fascination for generations, casting the Ohio Valley as not just a cradle of civilization, but as a stage for one of America's most enduring archaeological enigmas. What do you think? Were these giant skeletons just myths fueled by old newspapers? Or could they be the lost remains of a forgotten people? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theories. From the early 19th century, as land clearing in the Ohio Valley intensified, countless burial mounds were excavated by farmers, amateur archaeologists, and government-sponsored expeditions. During this process, many reports claimed that skeletons were discovered far exceeding the normal size of modern humans. Some accounts described skeletons over 8 feet, about 2.4 meters long, with occasional mentions of individuals nearly 3 meters tall, twice the height of ordinary people. Notably, many reports emphasized that the skulls had unusual shapes, sloping foreheads, oversized jaws, and in some cases, even multiple rows of teeth. To contemporary readers, these seemed like clear evidence of a mysterious race of giants who once ruled the land before vanishing. One of the most famous cases, reported in 19th-century newspapers, occurred in 1880 when a group excavating near Chillicothe, Ohio, allegedly uncovered dozens of oversized skeletons inside an ancient mound. According to reports, these skeletons measured 7 to 8 feet tall and were buried ceremonially, accompanied by artifacts such as copper ornaments, stone tools, and primitive weapons. These details fueled the imagination. Could these giants have been the legendary mound builders, a vanished ancient race, rumored to have constructed thousands of earthworks across the American Midwest? Beyond isolated accounts, many 19th-century researchers compiled these discoveries in published works. Some archaeological reports from the Smithsonian Institution also recorded unusual skeletons, though later these details quietly disappeared from official archives. This ambiguity raises unsettling questions. If such evidence truly existed, why is no skeleton preserved today in any museum? Why do they now survive only in old newspapers and second-hand recollections? This gap has kept the story of the Ohio Valley giants suspended between archaeology and legend. From the perspective of scholars, most reports of giant human skeletons hold little credibility. Many archaeologists argue that natural decomposition underground can cause bones to warp or stretch, giving the false impression of extraordinary height when unearthed. In other cases, excavators may have mistakenly identified the bones of large animals such as bears, bison, or even prehistoric elephants as human remains, especially when methods for bone identification were still primitive. Moreover, the late 19th century was an era when American newspapers thrived on sensational stories, so exaggerating discoveries to capture readers' attention was common practice. To mainstream science, the Ohio Valley giants are far more likely the result of archaeological mistakes, overactive imagination, and a culture of sensational journalism than genuine evidence of a lost race. However, many independent researchers, scholars, and enthusiasts of mystery archaeology challenge this dismissal. If it was all imagination, why do so many similar reports appear across decades and in different locations along the Ohio River? Accounts also emerged from West Virginia, Kentucky, and Indiana describing abnormally large skeletons. Strikingly, Native American traditions among the Shawnee, Iroquois, and Cherokee tell of ancient giant warriors who once dominated the land before being defeated by their ancestors. The overlap between native lore and archaeological reports only deepens the enigma. Another striking element is the near-total disappearance of physical evidence. Many alleged giant skeletons were reportedly lost, decayed, or vanished without a trace after being sent to museums. This fuels belief in deliberate suppression. Some researchers even accuse the Smithsonian of seizing and destroying giant remains to protect mainstream evolutionary models. Although no hard proof of such a cover-up exists, the suspicion persists among alternative researchers, strengthened by the lack of transparency in artifact preservation. What makes the Ohio Valley giant legend so compelling is its overlap of archaeology, journalism, and folklore. Archaeologically, the region contains monumental earthworks whose purposes and construction techniques remain only partly understood. Historically, countless reports and newspaper articles describe giant skeletons. Culturally, native stories handed down for generations insist that a race of enormous beings once lived and fought there. Together, these threads weave a tapestry that fascinates the imagination and frustrates conventional science. Today, despite advances in archaeology, no DNA or modern scientific evidence confirms the existence of a giant race in the Ohio Valley. Yet this absence of proof has not diminished the legend's allure. If anything, it has amplified it. The mystery continues to spark debate. Was it all a product of sensational journalism and misunderstanding, or is there a hidden truth, buried and forgotten for centuries? For many Americans, especially in the Ohio Valley, the giant legend is more than a story. It symbolizes the unresolved mysteries of their land. It is tied to pride in the earthworks and fuels the desire to uncover what mainstream history cannot yet explain. Perhaps until undeniable archaeological evidence emerges, the legend of the Ohio Valley giants will endure as one of the greatest unsolved enigmas in American archaeology. In the prehistoric history of North America, the land of Ohio is regarded as a valley of the mounds, Mound Builders Valley, where thousands of earthen constructions were built by ancient communities. Among them, Miamisburg Mound stands out as a monumental and mysterious symbol, not only because of its massive size, but also because of the unanswered questions about how it was built, what purpose it served, and what knowledge the ancients possessed. Seen from afar, Miamisburg Mound rises like a towering man-made hill over 20 meters high, with a base more than 85 meters wide, covering a vast area and astonishing anyone who contemplates the sheer amount of labor invested by prehistoric people to create it. Do you believe the people who built the Miamisburg Mound understood engineering better than we imagine? Share your opinion below. Archaeologists generally believe that the mound was constructed by the Adena culture, a native community that lived in the Ohio Valley from around 1000 BCE to 200 CE. However, unlike many thoroughly excavated sites, direct evidence about the precise age and the actual builders of Miamisburg Mound is still incomplete. This makes the mound an open mystery where numerous hypotheses are proposed but no definitive conclusion is reached. Some believe it was a burial mound for tribal leaders, while others suggest it may have served ceremonial or astronomical purposes, perhaps functioning as an observation point for tracking the sun and moon cycles. Yet what makes Miamisburg Mound a particularly remarkable phenomenon in archaeology lies not only in its scale or possible function, but in its construction techniques. The ancients had no heavy machinery, no trucks, and no modern surveying tools, yet they erected an enormous earthwork that has endured for over 2 millennia. The great question is, how did they accomplish this? First, consider the volume of material. Archaeological estimates suggest that about 54,000 cubic meters of earth were moved to create this mound. In modern terms, this equals millions of shovelfuls of soil or hundreds of thousands of baskets carried by hand. The Adena, or whichever community built Miamisburg, had no wheeled vehicles to help them, so their only means of transport were baskets carrying frames or bags made from animal hide and plant fibers. They patiently hauled basket after basket of soil from nearby quarries, depositing it layer upon layer to build the mound's foundation and body. More importantly, they did not simply dump soil at random. The mound structure was deliberately layered. Different types of soil were compacted and interlaced to form a stable body, one that could resist natural erosion for thousands of years. These methods reveal an astonishing knowledge of geology and soil mechanics. The Adena understood that a simple heap of earth would quickly wash away under rain. Instead, they carefully selected clay sand and silt, stacking them in engineered layers, much like modern engineers design the foundations of construction projects. Another striking detail is the slope of the mound. Observing it today, Miamisburg Mound has a relatively gentle incline rather than steep sides. This allowed rainwater to flow off without causing heavy erosion. Moreover, the grass and vegetation covering the mound's surface acted as a natural protective layer, helping to hold the soil in place. This demonstrates that the builders had calculated both the shape and the environmental factors so that the structure could endure across the ages. This raises the question, how could a community of hunters-gatherers and early farmers achieve such technical skill? Some scholars suggest that knowledge was accumulated over generations, perfected through the experience of building smaller mounds before attempting a monumental one. Others propose that they may have acquired techniques through cultural exchange with neighboring peoples. Whatever the case, the precision and efficiency in building Miamisburg Mound make it comparable to the great stone monuments of Egypt or Mesopotamia, except that here the chosen material was earth. When excavations took place in the 19th century, archaeologists found that the mound was not just a solid pile of dirt. Inside, there were burial pits, human remains, and artifacts such as stone tools and pottery fragments. This reinforced the theory that it once served as a ceremonial burial mound, while also showing that construction was far from simple. The builders had designed complex internal structures before finally covering it with earth to form the massive cone. In other words, beyond carrying and compacting soil, they also knew how to arrange internal features to serve ritual functions. Perhaps most impressive to archaeologists is the mound's durability. For more than 2,000 years, Miamisburg Mound has stood tall, neither collapsing nor suffering severe erosion, despite Ohio's climate of heavy rains, snowstorms, and seasonal changes. Even many modern constructions built with concrete and steel would struggle to survive under such conditions without damage. This suggests that the ancient builders had achieved a level of technical sophistication far beyond what we usually attribute to so-called primitive societies. Today, Miamisburg Mound is recognized as a National Historic Landmark of the United States and has become a destination for visitors, scholars, and archaeology enthusiasts alike. To tourists, it appears as a giant man-made mountain in the middle of the city. To scientists, it remains an unsolved puzzle, a testament to the organizational ability, technical mastery, and intellectual achievements of prehistoric North American peoples. When compared with other ancient monuments around the world, from the pyramids of Egypt to the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, Miamisburg Mound reminds us that greatness is not only found in stone or metal, but also in humanity's ability to master nature using the simplest of materials. The fact that thousands of people over generations could build such a massive structure solely from earth, yet make it more durable than many modern concrete buildings, stands as proof of the ingenuity and creativity of humankind. Ultimately, Miamisburg Mound is not only an archaeological site, but also a message from the past. Even in times without writing or metal, human beings knew how to apply natural science, understand soils, water flow, and environmental laws to create enduring works. That is why, when speaking of Miamisburg Mound, the most extraordinary aspect we must remember is its astonishing construction techniques, a true testament to the intelligence of prehistoric people. Hidden deep within the rolling hills of Ohio lies a creation so massive and so mysterious that it can only truly be seen from the sky. Known as the Great Serpent Mound, this winding earthwork stretches over 411 meters, coiling and twisting like a colossal serpent frozen in time. Its triangular head points westward, as if poised to devour or give birth to a glowing orb of life. Yet despite its breathtaking scale, it carries no inscriptions, no obvious clues, only silence. For more than a century, this silence has haunted archaeologists, astronomers, and explorers of the past, fueling endless debate. Who built the serpent, and what ancient purpose does it serve? What do you think the builders of the Great Serpent Mound were trying to tell us? Was it a calendar, a place of worship, or something far beyond our imagination? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theories. The Great Serpent Mound leaves a striking impression with the form of a colossal serpent crafted entirely from earth, winding across the landscape with 7 distinct coils as if slithering over the ground. Its head, triangular in shape, points westward, and directly before it lies a large circular shape interpreted by many as a symbol of the sun or a cosmic egg. This arrangement evokes the dramatic image of the serpent about to swallow the source of life, or conversely giving birth to a new being. The symbolism is richly layered. For some scholars, it represents the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. For others, the imagery may portray a celestial event, a solar or lunar eclipse expressed through simple geometry, functioning like a giant astronomical map inscribed onto the earth by ancient hands. Modern studies reveal that the winding curves of the Great Serpent Mound are anything but random. Certain points along the serpent's body align precisely with the sunrise and sunset during the equinoxes and solstices. This suggests the monument may have once served as a giant astronomical instrument, enabling ancient people to track the passage of time, predict agricultural seasons, and select auspicious days for rituals. If the egg before the serpent's head truly symbolizes the sun, then the entire mound functions as a massive cosmic map carved into the earth. The blend of sacred meaning and astronomical precision deepens the enigma, elevating it far beyond the realm of a mere ceremonial site. In the beliefs of many Native American tribes, the serpent is a powerful symbol. It is linked to water fertility, destruction, and renewal. The serpent is also associated with supernatural forces beneath the earth and the winding rivers that bring life. If the egg in front of its head represents the sun, then the entire construction could symbolize an eternal ritual reenactment of the struggle between darkness and light, life and death. This may have been a site for sacrifices, rain-making ceremonies, or ancestral worship, though no firm evidence has yet confirmed such practices. While its astronomical and religious significance remain open to speculation, the true origins of the Great Serpent Mound are the most hotly debated subject in scholarly circles. In the 19th century, many archaeologists believed the mound belonged to the Adena culture, 1200 BCE. The reasoning came from nearby burial mounds stylistically linked to the Adena. Under this view, the Great Serpent Mound could be more than 2,000 years old, making it one of the oldest heritage sites in North America. However, modern radiocarbon dating complicated matters. Samples of charcoal taken from within the mound returned a date around 1070 CE, much later than the Adena, and instead aligning with the Fort Ancient culture, 1070–1600 CE. In this interpretation, the Serpent Mound was not prehistoric in the distant sense, but a construction of post-prehistoric communities, perhaps connected to climate upheavals and religious shifts in the 11th century. Yet the issue did not end there. Researchers pointed out that radiocarbon results might not reflect the age of the entire monument. The samples could represent a later renovation or repair rather than the original construction. Some scholars suggest the Great Serpent Mound was first built by the Adena, then modified and reused by the Fort Ancient. In this case, the mound is the product of multiple generations, each layer infused with distinct beliefs and rituals. Another puzzle is why the Fort Ancient would undertake such a monumental project when they left behind few other large-scale constructions. Was the Serpent Mound a cultural exception, a ceremonial hub whose traces have otherwise vanished? Or did it indeed predate them with the Fort Ancient merely inheriting it, much like later civilizations inherited the works of their predecessors? Some bolder theories even suggest that the monument could be tied to unknown lost civilizations. Though unproven, such ideas add to the allure of the Great Serpent Mound as one of the most fascinating enigmas of American archaeology. To this day, the question, who truly built the Great Serpent Mound, remains unanswered. Some theories suggest it was the work of the Adena culture more than 2,000 years ago, while others argue it belonged to the Fort Ancient culture around the 11th century. A number of scholars believe both cultures may have played a role, with the Adena initiating the construction and the Fort Ancient later restoring and reusing it. This ambiguity in dating has turned the search for its true builders into a complex puzzle. Equally debated is its purpose. Was it a sacred ceremonial site where rituals of sacrifice and rain-making were held? Or was it designed as an astronomical observatory, reflecting the ancients' deep connection with the skies? Some interpret it as a symbol of political and cultural power, while others see it as a channel through which early people attempted to communicate with cosmic forces. This uncertainty makes the Great Serpent Mound resemble a half-finished book, a mysterious message left by ancestors, reminding us that history does not always yield clear answers, and that even modern science is still far from decoding every secret of the past. Today, the Great Serpent Mound is recognized as a major archaeological heritage site, preserved and open to visitors. But more than just a tourist destination, it stands as a symbol of curiosity and the human desire to uncover the past. Each coil of the giant earth serpent invites us to keep asking questions, to keep exploring, and to keep listening to whatever the ancients may have wished to convey thousands of years ago. Amid the green fields of Ohio lies a colossal monument few would ever expect: the Newark earthworks. Not pyramids of stone, not an ancient city, but vast earthen mounds, arranged with such geometric and astronomical precision that modern scientists are still astonished today. This is the mysterious legacy of the Hopewell people, a society without writing, without the wheel, without metal tools, yet somehow they created a wonder that rivals the greatest civilizations. Newark earthworks is not merely an archaeological ruin, but an unsolved riddle, embodying a strange fusion of intellect, spiritual belief, and construction techniques far beyond what we imagine possible. What do you think? Could the Hopewell people have possessed knowledge or methods now lost to history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The Newark earthworks is an enormous complex of earthen mounds spread over an area of about 4.4 square kilometers, making it the largest surviving geometric earthwork from antiquity. Archaeologists have identified three main sections: the Great Circle earthworks, the Octagon earthworks, and the Right earthworks, each with a distinct shape, but all linked together by massive earthen walls. The Great Circle alone measures up to 366 meters in diameter, nearly the size of 4 football fields placed side by side, while the sides of the octagon stretch as far as 165 meters, arranged with near-perfect accuracy. What is truly astonishing is that this entire system was built entirely by hand, using only earth, yet it still preserves harmonious proportions, straight alignments, precise symmetry, and a level of accuracy so remarkable that even modern engineers must acknowledge its incredible sophistication. The Newark earthworks stand out not only for their massive scale, but also for the sophisticated astronomical knowledge embedded in their design. At the center of this mystery is the Octagon earthworks, a vast octagon connected to a large circle, forming a unique system for celestial observation. Modern studies have shown that this structure is precisely aligned with the lunar standstill, the rare 18.6-year cycle when the moon reaches its extreme maximum and minimum points in orbit. This cycle is so difficult to detect that even many advanced civilizations of the same era could barely record it. Yet the Hopewell not only recognized this phenomenon, but also integrated it into one of their greatest ceremonial monuments. This reveals that they were far more than farmers and artisans. They were skilled astronomers, observing the skies over generations and transforming that knowledge into a spiritual and social foundation tied to ritual practices and the cycles of nature. What makes the Newark earthworks such a great archaeological mystery is the way the Hopewell people built this immense complex. They had no iron tools, no wheels for transport, and no draft animals to help, yet they managed to create earthen walls up to 6 meters high, more than 15 meters thick, stretching for kilometers. The volume of soil they moved is estimated in the millions of cubic meters, an almost unbelievable feat for a society that relied solely on human strength. Archaeological evidence shows the entire construction was carried out with small baskets of earth. Imagine thousands of people lined up step by step, scooping soil from the Ohio River, carrying it on their shoulders or by hand over long distances, then piling it up to form massive embankments. Despite such primitive methods, the results are astonishingly precise, straight embankments carefully aligned with angular measurements deviating by only a few centimeters. This accuracy suggests they possessed not only immense labor power, but also advanced knowledge of geometry surveying and collective organization, questions that continue to puzzle researchers to this day. Here lies the deeper mystery of the Newark earthworks. How could a society without writing or machines coordinate such a large-scale project? To complete these structures, they must have had a complex social system, leaders to direct labor groups for specific tasks, artisans with knowledge of geometry and measurement, and the patient participation of hundreds, perhaps thousands of people. Moreover, the precise astronomical alignments suggest they may have used systematic methods of observing solar and lunar shadows over decades, preserving knowledge across generations. One of the most astonishing aspects of the Newark earthworks is their remarkable endurance for more than 2,000 years. Despite natural erosion and even human interference over centuries, these earthworks have retained much of their original shape. This demonstrates that the Hopewell did not pile earth randomly, but instead applied deliberate and careful construction techniques. They knew how to select cohesive soil, how to compact each layer to ensure stability, and may even have understood principles of drainage to prevent flooding and collapse. Some studies suggest they intentionally combined different types of soil, clay, sand, and gravel to create a more resilient structure. The ability to apply such sophisticated construction methods in a society without stone architecture makes the Newark earthworks all the more enigmatic, while at the same time affirming the exceptional ingenuity of the Hopewell people in the context of their era. The mystery also lies in the question, why did they invest so much effort? Newark earthworks was clearly not for habitation, nor for defense. Instead, it seems to have been a ceremonial center where the Hopewell gathered to perform sacred rituals likely tied to lunar cycles and agriculture. Artifacts found here, from stone and copper ornaments to items of distant origin, indicate it was also a major hub of exchange, connecting communities spread across the northeast and midwest of North America. Today, the Newark earthworks is not only an archaeological heritage site, but also a vivid testament to the timeless genius of humankind. With only their hands, baskets of soil, and patient sky-watching, the Hopewell built a monumental work far beyond its age. Even with modern tools of measurement and analysis, one question remains: how did the Hopewell actually construct the Newark earthworks with such precision and resilience? Perhaps their secret has been lost to time. Yet every time we gaze upon the great circles and octagons rising across the Ohio fields, we are reminded of one truth. The Newark earthworks is not only a material monument, but also a message across the ages. It tells us that human intelligence, ambition, and creativity, even in societies that may seem simple, can produce wonders that continue to astonish posterity. Hidden in the rolling landscapes of eastern North America, stretching across the Ohio Valley to the quiet town of Moundsville, lies one of the most astonishing archaeological enigmas on the continent. Towering earthen monuments and vast geometric designs, known today as the Hopewell culture earthworks, rise from the soil like messages from a forgotten civilization. At the heart of it stands the massive Grave Creek Mound, a colossal structure that challenges every assumption about what a pre-industrial society could achieve. Built more than 2,000 years ago, long before the Hopewell had metal tools, wheels, or writing, these earthworks display a level of mathematical precision and engineering mastery that continues to baffle modern science. How did they do it? And what hidden purpose guided the creation of these monumental shapes etched into the land? How could they build this without metal tools, wheels, or modern machines? How do you think the Hopewell people managed to move and layer tens of thousands of tons of earth with such perfect precision? Share your ideas in the comments. I'm curious to see your theories. The first striking impression is the immense scale of these mounds and earthworks. The Grave Creek Mound in Moundsville rises nearly 20 meters high, with a base more than 70 meters in diameter, the size of a modern 6-story building. To build this massive structure, The Hopewell people had to move over 60,000 tons of earth, a task that would challenge even today's machinery. And Grave Creek is only one part of the entire system. Many other structures were laid out in perfect circles, squares, rectangles, and even octagons extending across dozens of hectares. Seen from above, the earthworks resembled giant symbols inscribed on the ground, rich with meaning and visual harmony. What puzzles archaeologists and engineers the most is the sophisticated level of construction the Hopewell people achieved. There is no evidence that they possessed advanced surveying tools, yet their earthworks display an astonishing degree of precision. Many circular enclosures have radii that are almost perfectly uniform, while straight lines extend for hundreds of meters and still maintain remarkable accuracy. Even more striking, some of the main axes of these constructions align with key celestial events, such as the rising and setting of the sun at the solstices or the extreme points in the moon's cycle. These details prove that the Hopewell were not only skilled builders, but also possessed a profound knowledge of astronomy, enough to connect the cosmos with the Earth in every one of their monumental works. A major mystery lies in how they transported and processed materials. Building Grave Creek Mound required millions of basketloads of earth carried by hand and layered carefully. The soil was not dumped randomly. Clay, sand, and gravel were placed in distinct layers, each compacted to create long-lasting strength. As a result, many mounds have withstood erosion storms and even human disturbance for more than 2,000 years. Such knowledge of soil behavior and compaction reflects an advanced level of civil engineering that far exceeds what is usually attributed to a so-called pre-metallic society. Even more astonishing is the accuracy and symmetry of certain constructions. For example, the octagonal complexes at the Newark earthworks, also part of the Hopewell tradition, have sides of nearly identical length, differing by only a few centimeters despite stretching hundreds of meters. At Moundsville, the proportions of Grave Creek mound height relative to diameter suggest deliberate mathematical design, making it both stable and visually imposing. Modern tools like laser surveying and satellite imagery confirm that the margin of error in Hopewell construction is astonishingly small, something hard to achieve without advanced instruments. How did they accomplish this? Scholars have proposed several theories. Some suggest the Hopewell developed simple yet effective tools, such as shadow sticks for solar measurements, ropes for distances, or wooden stakes for alignments. Others argue they relied on long-term astronomical observation combined with intergenerational patience. Yet no definitive evidence of such tools has been found, leaving a significant gap in modern understanding. What is clear, however, is that such precision required a highly organized labor system with leadership planning and coordination comparable to a large-scale national project. Beyond engineering, the earthworks also served ritual and spiritual purposes. Excavations reveal that many mounds were burial sites for elites, accompanied by exquisite artifacts, copper ornaments, shell bracelets from the Gulf of Mexico, obsidian blades from Yellowstone, and gemstones from the Great Lakes. These finds prove that the Hopewell maintained a continental-scale trade network spanning thousands of kilometers, extraordinary, considering they lacked horses' wheels or large ships. Moundsville and other earthworks likely functioned as ceremonial and political centers within this network. One of the most puzzling aspects is that the entire system left behind no writing or recorded texts. Unlike the Egyptians or Maya, who built in stone, the Hopewell worked in earth, a fragile material that usually erodes. Yet these monumental earthworks remain. This paradox deepens the mystery. How could a society without writing or stone monuments construct works that rival the scale of the world's ancient wonders. Today, Moundsville and the Hopewell earthworks are both archaeological treasures and subjects of ongoing debate. Some scholars view them as giant calendars for agricultural cycles. Others emphasize their ritual importance as gathering places for thousands of people. More speculative theories see them as a form of spatial code, vast symbols inscribed onto the land. Whatever the interpretation, one fact remains unchanged: the precision and sophistication of Hopewell construction continues to defy easy explanation. Across millennia, these mounds stand as silent witnesses to a vanished culture and as reminders of the diversity and complexity of prehistoric societies. The Hopewell may not have left stone temples or written records, but they did leave monumental earthworks built with skill, intellect, and faith. For modern scholars, each survey and excavation renews both admiration and awe. And the ultimate question still echoes: how could people, more than 2,000 years ago, without machines, build works of such extraordinary precision and sophistication? Perched high above the winding waters of the Little Miami River in Ohio lies a structure that defies every expectation we might have of ancient America. Known today as the Fort Ancient Earthwork, it stretches across the landscape with walls of earth so massive they rival medieval fortresses. Yet here is the twist. Despite its imposing size, this was never truly a fortress. Built more than 2,000 years ago by the mysterious Hopewell people, or perhaps their Adena predecessors, it challenges our very notions of what prehistoric societies in North America were capable of. Archaeologists once thought they understood its purpose, but every discovery only deepens the enigma. Was this a fortress, a temple, a cosmic observatory, or something else entirely? What do you think Fort Ancient really was? A fortress, a temple, a cosmic observatory, or something we haven't even imagined yet? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theories. First of all, in terms of scale, Fort Ancient Earthwork is truly monumental. The entire site covers more than 100 acres, about 0.4 kilometers, with massive earthen walls stretching 5.5 kilometers in length. These walls, averaging 4 to 6 meters in height, were built from millions of cubic meters of earth, transported entirely by hand. This demonstrates the extraordinary organizational capacity of ancient peoples. Researchers discovered that the walls were not simply piled up, but layered with clay, rubble, and even ash, creating a structure durable enough to withstand thousands of years. Yet the true mystery of Fort Ancient lies not in its size or construction skill, but in its actual purpose. For decades, the greatest question surrounding the Fort Ancient Earthwork has been, what was this massive structure truly built for? The name fort suggests a military fortress, yet closer examination reveals countless inconsistencies. The entire complex has more than 60 gateways, making defense virtually impossible, since enemies could enter from any direction. Archaeologists have also found no traces of wooden palisades, watchtowers, or defensive ditches, features fundamental to any stronghold. While its elevated position provided broad visibility, the harsh conditions atop the bluff made it unlikely to sustain a permanent garrison of soldiers. For these reasons, the military hypothesis has gradually been dismissed. Instead, many scholars lean toward the possibility that this was a vast ceremonial center, a sophisticated cosmic observatory, or a gathering space with profound social and religious significance, reflecting the complex spiritual life of the Hopewell people. One of the key clues to its hidden function lies in the alignment of gateways and walls. Many points in the structure curiously align with celestial events. Some gateways open precisely toward the sunrise, at the summer or winter solstice, or to the movements of the moon. This suggests that the builders possessed sophisticated astronomical knowledge and deliberately created a space for observing the cosmos. Ceremonies may have been held according to astronomical cycles, both to mark time and to fulfill religious rituals. This is evidence that Fort Ancient was not a random construction, but the result of a blend of scientific observation and spiritual belief. Archaeological excavations further support the ceremonial hypothesis. Within Fort Ancient, archaeologists have found fire pits, animal bones, pottery, and other ritual artifacts. These remains suggest that large-scale ceremonies once took place here, possibly involving offerings, ritual feasts, and social gatherings. It is highly likely that Fort Ancient served as a meeting point for different Native American communities across the Midwest, functioning as a cultural hub where people not only exchanged goods but also shared beliefs and knowledge. Another mystery lies in the internal layout of Fort Ancient. The earthworks do not enclose a single uniform space, but rather surround several distinct areas separated into functional zones. Some areas have elevated ground, while others show signs of being leveled and reused multiple times. This indicates that the site may have hosted different types of ceremonies and activities, ranging from large communal rituals to smaller, more sacred gatherings. Archaeologists also discovered evidence of ritual fires in many pits, along with traces of ash and reddened earth. These signs do not suggest destruction by warfare, but rather repeated ceremonial burnings or commemorative practices across generations. Thus, Fort Ancient may have been a gigantic open-air temple, a place where people connected with the heavens, their ancestors, and each other. Even so, countless questions remain unanswered. Why would ancient peoples build such an enormous structure solely for ritual purposes? Could Fort Ancient have also served as a political or social symbol of power for Hopewell leaders? Or perhaps it was a trading hub where groups from across North America gathered to exchange goods and simultaneously participate in sacred rituals. These hypotheses remain unresolved. Another striking aspect is Fort Ancient's connection with other Ohio earthworks, such as the Great Serpent Mound and the Newark earthworks. All share prominent ceremonial and astronomical features, hinting at a unified system of belief and knowledge that extended far beyond a single community. This raises the question, did a broader native cultural network exist, with shared astronomical and religious traditions, of which we now only glimpse fragments? Today, Fort Ancient earthwork is not only an important archaeological site, but has also been recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 2023 under the group Hopewell Ceremonial Earthworks. This recognition affirms not only the historical and cultural value of the site, but also highlights it as living proof of the complexity and creativity of ancient Native American cultures, long underestimated or misunderstood. In the end, what makes Fort Ancient earthwork remarkable is not merely its vast size or its survival across millennia, but the mystery surrounding its true function. There is no definitive evidence to conclude whether it was a fortress, a temple, or an observatory. Instead, all archaeological, astronomical, and cultural evidence suggests that it was simultaneously a ceremonial center, a cosmic observatory, and a social space binding communities together. In other words, Fort Ancient is a living enigma, a reminder that the ancestors of Native America possess knowledge and beliefs far deeper than we once imagined. Hidden in the rolling hills of Ohio lies a colossal enigma carved not from stone, but from the very earth itself. The Alligator Effigy Mound, stretching nearly 76 meters across a ridge above the Raccoon Creek Valley is unlike anything else left behind by ancient native cultures. While most effigy mounds take the form of soaring birds, mighty bears, or coiling serpents, this one defies expectations. It appears as a giant reptile, perhaps an alligator, a salamander, or even a mythical creature born of legend. For centuries, its strange silhouette has captivated archaeologists and sparked fierce debate. What exactly did its builders intend us to see, and why did they choose such a mysterious form? Do you think the Alligator effigy mound was a sacred place for rituals or an ancient calendar to track the stars? Tell us your theory below. One of the most controversial aspects is the mound's very shape. Many call it the Alligator Mound, yet biologists point out that alligators do not live in Ohio, a temperate region far from the natural habitat of southeastern alligators. Some researchers therefore suggest it is not an alligator, but rather a giant salamander, an amphibian, once present in the area. Other scholars lean toward the idea that it represents a sacred being in native spiritual traditions, perhaps a water spirit or a guardian creature of rivers and streams. The lack of consensus over the identity of the depicted creature only adds to the mystery, making this earthwork a double enigma, uncertain in both origin and purpose. As for its age, scholars suggest that the Alligator effigy mound may have been built by the Adena culture 1000 BCE, 200 CE, or the Hopewell culture 100 CE, 500 CE. Yet archaeology has not uncovered direct evidence to confirm this. Unlike many other mounds, which often contain burials, grave goods, or ritual traces, the Alligator effigy mound is completely empty. Excavations have revealed no graves, no artifacts, no remains, and no ceremonial deposits. This raises the greatest question. If it was not a burial site, then why was the Alligator effigy mound constructed at all? This is the most crucial mystery. Given its massive size and the labor required, the construction of the mound must have involved considerable organization and effort. Why would prehistoric native communities create such a monumental work only to leave it empty? The answer may lie in ritual and religious functions. Many scholars believe the Alligator effigy mound served as an open-air ceremonial center, a place for community gatherings, rain-invoking ceremonies, harvest rituals, or rites tied to cosmic cycles. A common hypothesis suggests that the mound symbolizes a water spirit in native belief. The native tribes of Ohio regarded rivers, lakes, and underground springs as sources of life, often associating them with aquatic guardian beings. The alligator salamander-like form may represent a sacred entity dwelling within earth and water with the power to control crops, weather, and fertility. Viewed from above, the Alligator effigy mound appears to be in a poised stance, as if ready to spring from the ground. This posture may carry a mythological meaning, a guardian creature at the threshold between the human world and the supernatural realm. Moreover, some studies suggest that the Alligator effigy mound may have served an astronomical function. Just as the Great Serpent Mound is believed to align with the summer solstice, the Alligator Mound might have been positioned to line up with certain celestial events on key seasonal days. Observations indicate that the mound's orientation corresponds with the setting sun during transitional times of the agricultural cycle. If true, the mound would have been not only a religious symbol, but also a giant calendar tool for ancient peoples to track planting and harvest seasons. What makes the Alligator effigy mound so remarkable is that it defies conventional explanations. If it were a burial mound, it has no remains. If it were a defensive structure, there are no fortifications. If it were a dwelling, its form is too unusual. Thus, scholars are compelled to interpret it through the lenses of symbolism and spirituality. In this light, the Alligator Effigy Mound becomes a key to understanding the spiritual world of prehistoric native cultures. They devoted immense effort not merely to survival, but to connecting with forces beyond human comprehension, the gods, the cosmos, and the balance between humanity and nature. Another fascinating aspect is its rarity. Across North America, there are thousands of effigy mounds, but most depict birds, bears, or serpents. A giant reptilian effigy, like the Alligator Effigy Mound, is exceedingly rare. This makes it a cultural exception, a reminder that the symbolic systems of native peoples were far more diverse than we often realize. Perhaps for one vanished tribe, the reptilian being held a central role in their cosmology. But when that group disappeared or merged with others, the meaning was lost, leaving behind only the enigmatic earthwork. Today, the Alligator Effigy Mound remains intact and preserved as a national historic landmark. Visitors are often astonished by its scale and mystery. From above, the earthwork is unmistakable: a long body, four outstretched limbs, a slightly raised head, as if a colossal creature was sleeping beneath the ground, waiting to awaken. This imagery evokes native myths of subterranean beings, representing the dual force of nature that both nourishes and threatens humankind. What makes the Alligator Effigy Mound special is not only its unusual form, but also the unanswered question of its true function. Why would an ancient community build such a massive structure without leaving any trace of its purpose? Was it a giant altar to a forgotten god? A prehistoric observatory used to read the heavens, or simply a cultural symbol? But if so, why construct it on such a monumental scale, visible across the valley? These questions remain suspended to this day, and perhaps it is precisely this mystery that gives the Alligator Effigy Mound its allure. It reminds us that the past is not written only in clear artifacts, like houses or tools, but also in enigmatic symbols we may never fully decode. The Alligator Effigy Mound stands as vivid testimony to the imagination, beliefs, and creative spirit of prehistoric peoples, a legacy that offers more questions than answers.